Dope. How we doing? Let me check out my stream real quick. Just make sure everything's working. See, Scylla commented. Dope. See, Scylla. All right. Let's not have that on. All right, guys. So let's do it. Ready to get started. I know. So last week, right? We talked about just kind of, getting some ideas, on paper, right? At the end of the day, it's like, just trying to spitball, right? Half of these ideas are gonna suck. I mean, all of them are gonna suck, but one of them is gonna suck just a little bit less, right? And so for the first little bit, I'm gonna be kind of just running through some notes. This is the first week, so there's not too much to say. It's more like, keep these things in mind as we roll. Some of the people that have been submitting, right? And it looks awesome too. And it's fun seeing people submit. So for everybody watching, or when you watch this, definitely please, if you're participating and you want some feedback or you want some eyes, not even just me, but other people as well, just submit the work. If you did it, you might as well get feedback, right? So we're gonna look at some stuff right now, real quick, just to kind of just see what's, I guess, what are some of the ideas that are floating around, right? And then I'll kind of hand out some notes and we'll go from there. So with that in mind, I think our first up is Johnny. I don't know if Johnny's here. He said he might not be here. Let's see what he said. What's it? Oh, weapon crit. There it is. All right. Cool. Castles and industrial cranes help build and fortify walls. The heavy industry / construction is affecting the environment, essentially killing everything around it. Wasn't sure how to balance the B and M reference. Maybe they can be flipped around. Not sure how to lean to one more. Gotcha. All right. So looking at your reference here, right? This is, where's my pen? I was looking at it a little bit earlier, right? I think this is pretty cool, right? I think, something to kind of be aware of, right? As we're diving in, really is like, whenever you're looking at reference, right? There's, when you're looking at any reference at all, there's the physical languages that we see, right? So whenever we're seeing like cranes, for example, there's like the scaffolding, the hollow, the hole, stuff like that. That's, the visual things that we're seeing. But then also think about the function. Think about the abstract ideas, right? Think about like what this means, right? 1950s factories was during the industrial boom, right? And so like it could also be even like signs of hope, right? Like very abstract ideas, but at the end of the day, they can really push some of these thoughts and some of these feelings whenever you kind of creating a project, right? Because the physical thing that we see isn't just the only thing that we see from the reference, right? Especially like, castle, right? That could be defensive, right? It could also be a home, right? It can mean a lot of different things. And once you're kind of adding more to this, and once you're kind of, developing this idea more, try to dig into the more abstract ideas. That way we can get something maybe a little more unique versus like maybe just seeing what the form languages are doing, right? As far as images go, dude, this looks sick, man. I think for a first image, this is a a pretty good quality bar, especially for a thumbnail. I'm not sure if this is a thumbnail, right? Obviously, I'm not too familiar with your work to be able to judge like if this is like 10, 20, 30% or not. I have a feeling that it's a little bit further than that, just because of the quality bar that you've been hitting with like maybe some of the details and stuff. And something to be aware of, right, is that when you're doing these thumbnails, especially in the beginning, right, it doesn't matter how clean something is, and it doesn't need to be perfect, right? I think a tendency for us to do is, I'm gonna make this badass image that looks really cool, and I'm gonna like clean it up and make like everything spelled out really well, right? Like you zoom in, right? Every scaffolding thing's there. I know this is a lot of 3D and stuff, but at the end of the day, the amount of time that it took you to do one image, right? Because you only submitted one, so I can only go off of one. The amount of time it took you to do one, you probably could have done 3 or 4 more, right? And that's the big thing about concept art. It's not really about quality, right? Something that happens a lot. I'm not saying that this is the only thing you're focusing on, whatever, but whenever you are creating images, right, when you're trying to push ideas, the first phase, right, because we'll get to this. This is the fun part. This is where, you know, we start like diving in and being all nerdy about materials and function and this and that. But as far as a project goes, right, remember that the first phase, we're just trying to throw out ideas. What's fun, what's cool, what's interesting. And then we can pick from that and kind of consolidate information. Because you only have one image, you only have one idea, right? And you're going to see this week how I'm going to take a couple of my ideas, not that, you know, my ideas are any better or worse, right? But I'm going to take some of my ideas and consolidate down and then amplify it more with some more things, kind of, you know, some more references and some more ideas and this and that. Just be careful of that whenever you're going into image making. I think the image looks cool, but it does run into that problem of there's not much left after this, right? There's, you know, just imagine you hand this into a client and they're like, oh, that's a great thumbnail. Cause you took like the idea would be you went into this and you're like, hey, you know, I'm in my thumbnail phase. So what do you think? Right. And then the clients would be like, great. Can you finish that off? And you know, this is not like 100% finished. I get that. But the ramp up, right? If you were to do a painting like the trajectory, right? If you were to do this, if you look at this on a graph, right? You know, it's like, oh, your trajectory went up like that. Right? You're right here. And then the client sees that and they get super excited. I'm like, dude, hell yeah. Cause you're supposed to go that way. But in reality, if your quality bar can't match that, you're actually going to end up doing something like this, right? Which is very underwhelming for the client because the amount of time it took you, right? The first phase, second, third, fourth, right? Thumbnails, revisions, or variations, you know, refine, right? Like totally final. The distance you go from here to here is not that high. You know what I mean? So just be careful of that. I'm not saying that's what you're doing now because I'm not, you know, obviously I don't know based off of what you submitted, but that could be a problem. And as a production artist, you want to focus a little bit more on ideas rather than just creating a cool image because we know you can, right? Looking at this, dude, this looks dope. You're right. I think it's interesting. I think it works well. I do feel that it's a little like on the nose when it comes to like the references. You can kind of see it like +1+1, right? And we want to kind of see what abstract ideas we can bring into this to make it just that much more interesting. You know what I mean? So as a whole, great image. You know, for 1 week's worth of work, I think it looks dope, dude. Just now you gotta one up this. You know what I mean? You have to take this to another step. What I do recommend doing for this next assignment, right? If you're going to be moving forward with this, take this painting, you know, put it on hold, do 2 or 3 more, and then come back with it, right? Just because you want some more ideas. We want to kind of flush out the initial thoughts first, and then we want to kind of get into some more interesting things. You know what I mean? So, but thanks, dude. This is a great start. So good job. All right. Let's see. And then Finn Downs is next. All right. Finn's not here either. Cool, right? Seeing ancient Greece. This is, I guess, like boat ruins, like old boats. And then, what is that? God, what is that called? God, I knew the instruments here. Anyway. And then constructivism. Interesting. That's cool. Let's see. Oh, baritone. That's what it was. Right? That's a baritone, isn't it? God, I need to Google this. I'm about to look like a fool in front of people. Baritone. People are like looking at me like, yeah, there you go. I'm not crazy. You're crazy. There you go. Yeah, that is a baritone. It's an old one. That looks dope, dude. Anyway. So. Oh. The Discord stream is not your Photoshop stream, by the way. Riley. Wait. What is happening? Oopsie. Sorry, guys. Let me switch that. Stop streaming. You guys got to say something sooner, guys. screen one, go live. All right, how's that? Is that cool?
It's cool.
Thanks, man. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, you gotta say something sooner. It was funny though. I was teaching a class yesterday, and then there's a bit of a lag, and I can fix that on my side. And the class ends at 9. They were like, it was like 8:58. They were like, hey, there's a little bit of a lag on your screen. I was like, you gotta tell me that sooner, man. But anyway, so cool, dude. So I think for me, right, looking at this, and I had, I was looking at it earlier, and I had some thoughts on it, and I was like, I think it looks cool. I think it looks interesting, right? I think something to think about is, I guess, how are we introducing some more of these two items, right? Especially like I'm seeing I don't know. So like the fire and I guess the destruction part, but I think right now it's 2 1-for-1, right? Because, we have exactly that, right? And I think something to be aware of, right? Whenever we have something that happens a lot, especially in like a lot of student projects, when we see like ancient Greece, right? Or like the ancient places, right? We see it like this because that's what's around right now, right? But the issue is, depending on, when, you're doing this, when you're playing this, like whenever this game is set in, right? Like, God of War is not set in 2023, right? It's set in the time period where, a lot of those things would be, flourishing, or it's very vibrant, right? It's when it's brand new technically. And so whenever you do this, you got to make sure that it doesn't feel like ruins, because that's what's going on now. I know there's destruction going on, right? But would a forest fire really take down this kind of stone building? I don't know, maybe, but it's just something where just be careful of that, because these ruins is what we see now, but time hasn't happened to it yet, especially if you're in ancient Greece, right? If it's, if it's part of the reference, ancient Greece is the reference, then, you have to make sure your time period is accurate to whatever the idea is. You know what I mean? So it looks like you're doing Abe's, from what you're saying, right? It's Abe's Odyssey, and then ancient Greece, location Hades. It's a video game, right? So whenever you're showing this, be careful that you're not showing ancient Greece during the modern ancient Greece, or during the modern Greece. You know what I'm saying? You kind of run into that issue of like, it looks like that to us because it's been, thousands of years or however long it's been. So just be careful of that. The next thing I want you to think about is, how are we introducing some of these things, right? Because we have destruction, we have, I guess, ruins in this part of the project. So whenever you start introducing these types of ruins, right, it's it's the same general idea, right? Old, decaying, whether obviously there's a time difference, right? But there is an understanding of there's a difference here. You know what I mean? They're different in some sort of way. So when you bring it back into your project, what is that doing? You know what I'm saying? Maybe something you could think about is like, how this thing got destroyed, right? And you start thinking about the kind of parallels that are happening in this destruction, and then you can lead that destruction back to here, right? Maybe it's more of a flooding thing. Maybe it's more of a, I don't know, decay, or maybe something crashed into it, right? And then it's kind of like sinking or something. Maybe it's like on not a stable foundation or whatever it is, right? But that'd be the idea. How do we make this feel like, this medium, or at the very least, maybe even the small, kind of starts introducing itself somehow, you know what I mean? So, but as a whole, I think the image looks good, right? I think it runs into the same problem as Johnny from earlier, where we have one image, right? And the issue with one image is that we don't have more to play with. We don't have other ideas to kind of, introduce into our project, because now you're kind of stuck with this one, right? Well, what's going to happen is, the ideal way to do it is, I have 3 or 4 different ideas that are kind of cool, right? And none of them are like winners, but then you combined all, 4, all 5 into your final thing, right? And hopefully that creates a better idea. So this first phase for everybody that's listening later, everybody's gonna do this later, everyone's doing it now. Really focus on your idea. It doesn't matter what your quality looks like. We'll fix that. We'll have time to make it look better. For now, just make sure it's actually something worth pursuing. So Awesome, dude. Yeah, thanks for submitting. All right, Albert. Let's see what we got here. Giants, medieval England, Roman Catholicism. Cool. Death Stranding, sick. Location, England, Iceland combo. Okay. Sweet, 20th century England. Okay, cool. So, then you got tapestries as well. So looking at your image, right? I think something that I'd want to, I guess, think about, right? Like I'm kind of seeing something here, right? I'm like, oh, it looks like something. It looks like that looks like either a giant to me or maybe part of a giant or whatever it is, right? And what you want to think about is whenever you're designing this space, right? Try and imagine what the function of this space is for. So in this case, right, you have these giants and they're kind of coming up. It looks like the giants on their knees. They're either stone statues, right? Or they're like alive and they're like sitting there, right? So I'm assuming they're like stone statues, but I guess the premise would probably be that were alive at one point or something like that, right? Obviously you're not here for me to kind of ask you those questions, right? But something to think about is when you're creating this world, right? And there is, giants of sorts, you have two scales to play with, right? There's the human scale, right? When we're walking around, that's a pretty big gate, and that's usually for people, right? That way you can bring in like carts and like livestock, this and that. That's usually what a castle gate is. That's why it's always bigger instead of like one person wide, right? And then there's these people here, or these giants, and you kind of want to understand, like, maybe this was like, these are like ancient times and they were just kind of there. And then maybe they're like using the stuff, these people, the small people are using the stuff from the, large people or whatever. It's a large castle or it's a large opening. It's like weird how big it is, but just because they're so small, but they just happen to be occupying this essentially abandoned space, right? And so when you're thinking through the logic of the space, right, you want to kind of build that in, right? Because people might not understand 100% what's going on when they play the game, but they start getting clues. And our job really is to start grabbing clues and stitching them together. And that way they can kind of figure it out, right? You're kind of spoon feeding them. You don't want to just tell them. You don't want to just write it on there, Giant's home or whatever it is, right? Because that's boring. But what you do want to do is make sure that you have just a little bit of information for people to kind of understand what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, again, same problem as some of the others where it's just one image. That's all we got, you right now, it's not a big deal just because, we haven't done the next assignment yet. But as you go deeper and deeper into this project, you're going to find yourself having to slow down and I guess think more broadly, right? And we want to kind of do all that in the beginning, right? To kind of get at least something to grasp onto, because these images that we're doing aren't really going to be shown, right? They might be in the portfolio somewhere, like a thumbnail or, one of the initial images, but it's never going to be the one that's like the final thing. So when you are doing your ideas and stuff, right? Just shotgun ideas, it can be trash. They more often than not are, but just understand that this is for us. You know what I mean? We'll get to the cool stuff. We'll make the perspective look good. We'll make the colors look good, whatever. But as long as your idea is good, you'll probably be in a good spot. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, man. All right. Let's see. Next. All right, Matthias, I know you're here. What's up, dude? How's it going, man? Unless he's like sleeping. Matthias, you alive, bro? Yo, hello. Oh, your mic's not on if you are speaking. All right. I'll give you a second. But just look at this. We have the fungus. It looks like we have some sort of coast, right? Hey, Alex, your mic's going off, just as a heads up. You might want to mute. You have the coast, and then we have a jar. Yeah, coast. The Kenyan coast. Okay, cool. Modern day video game. Shaman King. Cool. Awesome. Oops. Let's see what he says. Nope, nothing. All right. So, it sounds like you're having mic issues, so I'll just kind of keep going on this. But I think these are cool, dude. I think something that's like this is, I think this is interesting, right? I think some of the ideas where it's like kind of building. Oops, I'll do this in red so you can see it. Live stream chat. What did he say? He's having mic issues. Come on, man. Fumbling the ball, dude. This is your moment to shine. But looking at your reference, this is sick. I like, I'd probably reorganize this just a little bit. Right now you have medium, big, small. It's a little weird. This is not a big deal. I mean, I don't care, but you know what I'm saying? But I think something cool is like, how does this thing form? You know what I mean? Like whenever, like something that I would do, right? When you're thinking about like designing, right, is not just what it looks like currently, but how did it get there? You know what I mean? Like, I think there's something cool about how things grow and how things are kind of evolve and adapt and stuff like that. So try to find like the life cycle of this from where it starts. Then, like the time lapse, for example, right? And then now imagine, right? The civilization is based off of that, right? And so now you have your building pieces, right? Which are all cool. I think that they look really good, but then like, what if I don't know exactly how this kind of forms, so you might need to educate me on that. But what if it like kind of forms and it just kind of comes together, right? It starts off as a thing, and maybe it like kind of meets up, right? And so what would be interesting, because I saw these and I thought, oh, that's like the logical progression, right? Where we have, the building, right? We have this these two separate things, and eventually they start like connecting and bridging them together, and it's like, maybe think about the whole city like that, right? As you go up, maybe it's newer, or maybe go down, maybe it's newer. You know what I mean? But the whole point would be, you're kind of like creating these connection points, and you're trying to see like, how can we build this civilization that kind of does something a little bit different, right? Because when you introduce something like this, right, especially to the way that, maybe like a city layout is or whatever, you can bring in some really cool ideas, right? And you're already kind of doing it. I like, there's holes in this that you can kind of see through it, right? And so I love that you're doing that. I think that's a great, first pass. Now think about, okay, well, what if, what are other aspects of this, right? Is this thing poisonous? How does it grow? What does it do? What's its way of gathering resources? Because then all you got to do is just translate that level of thought into your civilization. How do they do things, right? The same way that this thing would. You know what I'm saying? So it could be kind of a cool thing to see. So, but these are sick, man. I like some of these thumbnails. I think, especially in the beginning, right? Try to start a little wider, right? I like how some of these are wider, but give us something to look at each time. You're kind of doing it, but you're not like quite there yet. You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost there. But, so whenever you're doing this, really think about like, this is a game, right? And whenever you play a game, it's going to be like, there's a path, there's a city, there's a place that I'm at, that the camera, the person playing is currently in position of. And then there's like something back here. And you're like, what is that? You know what I mean? And you kind of have like this bigger city. Maybe this is like the gate area, right? And put us outside. And it makes us like want to go into this space. You know what I mean? Like it creates this sense of adventure. Like, oh, what's that over there? I need to run that way, right? Especially in a game. So I think as a whole, dude, these ideas are sick. I think they look cool. I like how loose you're keeping them, right? Especially for the first round. As you develop, this week that we're going to be talking about, as we develop these ideas more, keep trying to bring in ideas and think abstractly. And this is something that I'm going to repeat basically for everybody. It's whenever we are designing, right, there is different ideas that we can bring in from our forms. The physical shapes that we see are very, very important, first and foremost, but it's not the last thing, right? If this is a fungus, if this is a mold, or a very invasive type species, right? then think about, well, what kind of civilization would that be, right? If you're trying to create a civilization based off of a parasite, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? The demeanor of these people are going to be different, right? Versus like if you use like a sword, right? If you use a sword for a form language, there's a more attacking type of thought process there, right? They will tend to be a little more aggressive, right? Just because you're using that form language. So just be careful of that, or think about that as you're moving forward. And it's going to make your idea kind of evolve into something else. The visuals are one thing, the shape language that we see, but try think deeper. You know what I mean? Yeah, hope that helps, man. But this is looking sick. Yeah, keep it up. Sick. Yeah, and for everybody, right? This is a good example. Like, Matthias has had classes with me before, so he knows what I'm saying. He's not new to me saying a lot of these things. But yeah, keep it loose, right? It's we're not trying to impress anybody. This first round, it's just whatever we can throw up on a page. You know what I mean? So when you are ideating, right? What you don't want to do is waste too much time when it comes to I guess creating images. Whatever gets something on the page, right? Because then we can refine it, we can add things. That's what the next 2 weeks are for. So just try to think about it that way, because the tendency for us to be like, I need to show a good painting, right, is very prominent whenever we first start. But whenever we are in a production setting, right, the people around you, the people that see your work, they're artists too. You can show them rough sketches, right? It's not going to be shown to the showrunner, or it's not going to be shown to the showrunner or the investors and stuff, right? But in production, between other artists and stuff, you can just give them a shitty drawing and they'll generally know what you're saying. You know what I mean? Because at that point, it's give you time to finish. But if your idea isn't good, this project isn't even going to go. So, excuse me. All right. So, Jonathan said he couldn't make it, right? Yeah, he's not here. So, looking at location, downtown LA, Halloween world, time present, medium, animation, action, adventure, IP based on Ollie Ollie World and Hotel Transylvania. Sick. Cool, man. So, he's been working on this for a while. So, and then for everybody, right, if you do have a project that you're kind of working on, like in tandem, for example, you're already in the middle of something, because, half of you already have, a portfolio and stuff, you can start a new painting and you can, bring that as well. And I'll, crit that and we'll kind of work on it. Or when the step that you're at, right, comes up, right? Let's say you've already done your keyframe. It's already done. And then once we get into week, I think it's 4. We'll talk about when we get there. But that's when we start doing assets and main designs and stuff like that. You can jump in then, right? If you already have a painting that you've been working on, and then you want to kind of do the next steps, you can follow along that way. It is pretty flexible. It just depends on what you want to do. You know what I mean? So, all right. So Jonathan's working on some color keys, right? This is the kind of the beginning, or I guess the story kind of beats that are happening in his project, right? Which I think is pretty cool. Something that, especially for color keys, something to think about, right? Whenever we're looking at this story, what you want to do is try and set up an idea, right? Because I'm looking at this, I'm seeing a couple things here, right? Where whenever we look at this, I'm going to grayscale this just to kind of prove a point. We have, kind of bright ambient here. And this is I'm showing everybody as a good note, right? He doesn't kind of add every value, right? In all of his paintings, right? It's kind of like, the highest value there is what? An 89, and the darkest is what is that? An 18, right? So it's, it's about the middle of the spectrum. It's very mid-gray, right? And then over here, right, we have that kind of that lower major key, but it's not very it's not like, super bright or anything. So like a low minor key as well. Same here. But then boom, right? It goes medium, dark, and then super bright, right? Because even like in grayscale, you can see the values being like, I'd even push those even further if you can. Have like bright cores, push that as much as you can. The color is helping out a lot because once you look at it in color, it's fine because you have that contrast with the red and green. But it's working because you're creating silence before the noise, right? Just like in movies, whenever you see an explosion or you see like the loud point, it's always quiet a little bit before that. So it's the same thing with like values, right? When you're working on a color script, what we want to look at is, there's the moment of impact, the important thing that needs to happen, right? And then we want to kind of set up moments before that to aid in this painting, because if every painting is the same, and for example, like this, obviously it's not that's not a color script. These are like the same moments, but if they were, right, it looks exactly the same. It doesn't create emphasis, right? So for Jonathan, what I would probably do, right, to make this just a little bit better, darken that down even more, maybe brighten this up a little bit higher, right? Create that downward trend of value range, right? And then once you get to here, you're like, boom, bright. And then you can go, you're going dark again, and then maybe you can go even brighter, right? Because that's kind of where, like, it looks like he made it home or whatever it is. Like that's the happy moment, right? So with that in mind, something that I like to do for color keys, or like especially linking stories together, right, is whenever I'm creating images, I'll create an image like this. And then I'll have a certain color that leads us into the next frame, right? Maybe there's like, some sort of red, or maybe like for example, if this is the moment that is impactful, I need some red, right? So what I'll do is I'll have just a little bit of something, just kind of hint at that, and then that mass of red starts growing, right? And just like kind of how you have here, right? I think it works pretty well, but try to maybe introduce it maybe just a second earlier. You know what I mean? Just so we have a little bit of something every single time. And then it kind of ramps up, right? And when you're looking at it as a color script, you'll kind of see that progression. But when you look at individual images, generally speaking, you won't really know what's happening quite yet. You know what I mean? And then, but I do like how you're kind of creating these moments of like, high saturation, then basically like grays, and then back to like high saturations again. It's like there's kind of this story progression and movement just within the colors alone. Because even though they are paintings, we can zoom in and look at them, right? But they're not really meant to be looked at up close. They're meant to be kind of seen from afar. So, but yeah, man, I think this project looks sick. Obviously you have a slight advantage by the fact that you've been working on this for a second. So I'm not, it's not like you've been working on this for a week. So, but cool, dude. Yeah, great work so far. Keep it up. I would say something as we get into design, something that you're going to run into is because you have references that are, I guess, not real, right? You're gonna run into the issue of, the references might not, I guess, translate as easily, right? You're not gonna have as much to kind of pull from, right? You have like skateboarding, which is great because there's a whole culture behind that. But as you pull more from the big, and this is the medium, small, it's gonna cause issues when you're designing. So what I really like to do, and if you really like this project, right, that's great, but look at the references that they kind of pulled from, right? And just use those references. Don't use their exact IP. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, man, looks great. Thank you. All right, let's see. Where is my folder at? Here it is. All right. Onmo. Let's see what you got here. The Unleashed, main idea is to focus on animation scene where some cult opens a portal that has been used to either for good or bad people, depending on who is winning, because the same portal opens the door in a good place or a bad place. Okay, cool. I did 3 to 4 sketches. Ended up with 1 because I wanted a night foggy scene in the water. Okay, cool. Folk point worshipping. Sick. Nice. Small props. Lighting ref. Supporting ref. Hero ref. Oh, you have... Okay, I'm trying to understand what this is down here. Onmo here? Might not be. Okay. So big, okay. Medium, small, extra, cool. Onimusha. All right, let's see. Cool. Sick. Gotcha. Cool. You don't know if you're using big, medium, or small correctly. All right. Okay. And then sketching phase, something that keeps me stuck is how to achieve the depth I want and the height. For example, I don't know if there is a way to set the distance between camera and the focal point to be cohesive. Gotcha. I wouldn't worry about that too much, right? It's something where it's like, I think as long as you get the main idea, because a lot of this stuff can be designed out, right? Something to understand as we're designing this thing, right? Because we have the big, we have the medium, we have the small. And as we're implementing this into the world, right? This first phase, it's a little looser, right? And something that I would think about is if you have the medium shapes or like chains or rusted chains at that, right? Think about that linking, right? Think about the rust. Think about like what it does. It bonds things together, right? It ties things up or it locks things up, right? And so whenever you're creating the space, you know, you might have a couple things here and there, but does it feel like it is locked up? You know what I mean? Because there's a big gaping hole there. So it's kind of like, you know, it doesn't feel like it's completely blocked off essentially, right? And you know, these are boat chains, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I guess they're just normal chains, so I guess they could be anything, right? But something to think about is like whenever you're creating the space, and it looks like you were doing that, you want to really set that up, right? Because right now we have a scene where, like, I like this one where we kind of see, you know, some of these ideas kind of popping in, which is great. Where it's like it's locked up. I want to see more of that. Really make it feel like it's locked down. Where it's like, you know, they're even like, you know, there's things in front of it, or maybe there's a big thing that's kind of like all chained down. Like if there's a big boulder or something. Like think about like the kind of technology they might have. Maybe even chains kind of coming from the foreground and midground. You know, really leading us to the spot because it's like, oh, it's this place, right? But you know, there's just ideas, right? But at the end of the day. As you develop the idea, just try to think about that, right? I think the color looks fine. I mean, it's all blue, but as we're kind of going, what I'd probably do is give everything a local color and then add the blue back into it. That way, it feels like it's like, you know, if you don't know how to kind of colorize something, if it's like a red Torii gate, for example, right? Start red and then darken that and then add blue to that to kind of simulate the kind of colors. If you're having trouble with like how to get certain colors in there. Obviously we're not covering color theory right now, so it's hard to say, but that's how I would approach it, or just find some reference to kind of give you like just color pick, like a red Torii gate during like a foggy day or a rainy day. What does that look like? You know? I've never done, yeah, cool. Yeah, mood painting, right? Think about like something I like to think about when I do a mood painting, right? It really is just, you know, what are we supposed to feel? Right? What is the experience of the scene? It's not really supposed to be about a thing in particular. It's about the moment itself. So whenever we're looking at these characters, we're so far away. We don't experience what this place is about or what these things are doing, right? Or maybe even have like a glow back here to make it feel like, oh, go in there, or it's doing something, right? Give us an action, give us something to kind of experience. Like a lot of my shots were from like a first person point of view, because that's what you would see if you're walking around taking pictures of these creatures that live in this space, right? It's not a weird angle. It's the angle that, not that this is weird, but it's not an angle that kind of separates us from the action. They're looking at us. We're experiencing this world. You know what I mean? Should I make the second scene with the demon's hand and the portal to create context and interest? Yes, absolutely. You should be making a lot of different scenes. I know you had mentioned that you had done a couple of thumbnails to kind of make this, to kind of come up with this idea. You want to show more of it first and foremost, right? Don't try to just show the one that you're proud of. Try to show all of them. That way there's like things to kind of latch onto and to grab, and we can talk about that more. But also, like, you want to do a lot of these ideas because at the end, we're combining all of them anyway. We're going to take all the best ideas and bring them into one, and hopefully it's an image that is worth pursuing this project. And so, you know, just so everybody knows, right, it's it's not really about the one image, right? It's the culmination of all the ideas, and we don't even know if this project is worth pursuing. So if this project is something that you want to do, you want to make sure that all the ideas are good, right? It's kind of like we don't want to invest time or money into a project that we don't quite believe in yet. You know what I mean? So that's why we're kind of doing thumbnails. But once we kind of refine that and bring it to a better thing, hopefully it's going to be a better idea that we can invest our time into. Because there's so many times where a student will do a portfolio where they spent, months and hours and days, weeks, years sometimes on a portfolio, and the idea wasn't even good to begin with. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not their fault. They didn't know any better at the time, but it's just something where it's like they're committing all this time into an idea that's going to hurt them more than not, and then all you really have to rely on is your quality at that point, which is not a good place to be, because quality is not really a thing that people focus on too much in the entertainment design space, especially as a concept artist or a viz dev artist, right? So, well, cool, man. Yeah, keep going. What I would recommend, you have one here, do 2 or 3 more, right? Give us different ideas though. Don't just latch on to the same idea. Try to make something different, right? Make a different type of gate, make a different type of portal, and try to go from there. So, thanks, dude. All right. Oops. Let's grab last one. What's up, Riley? How's it going, dude?
Hey man, what's up?
Yo, so how's this project going?
It's going good so far. Just like going through the early world building, trying to figure out the look and the feel of the world. Got a couple of keys done. I'd like to do a few more to explore like some different areas and settings of stuff I was thinking about. But yeah.
Nice. Cool, man. Dude, these are sick. I guess what are we looking at here?
So yeah, like the IP that I was gonna do was kind of like a Robin Hood idea, and it's a like kind of post-apocalyptic, dystopian, like ice world where the world's kind of like frozen over, and so like the wealthy, powerful people, are like mining, doing like they're able to make like some kind of energy through like nuclear reactors and stuff. But the poor people have like very little access to it, or it's just like rationed out. So the idea would be kind of a Robin Hood story where the main character in the game is kind of robbing from the rich and redistributing to the poor. And yeah, I just wanted to have like some elements of like a dark industrial vibe versus like a beautiful mountain natural scene taking place in like maybe in Alaska or like Pacific Northwest mountainy thing. And the pollution from the process is like what has caused the ice world, kind of like Snowpiercer. Like jack that idea a little bit. And that's kind of where I was going with it so far.
Dope, man. These are cool. I think like looking at it, I think something that could be kind of interesting, right, is kind of showing that difference, right? Because especially in some earlier images, what you really want to show is like what's the I guess what's the difference here, like the difference between the rich people and the poor, right? And like, for example, I'm seeing like, this thing, and they're like, they're up here, and maybe like you can make it look interesting and fun, where it's like, it actually looks like a fun place. Like think like, I don't say like Vegas, but you know what I mean? Like there's lights, there's like a city up there, they're doing their thing, and they're just ignoring the fact that there's pollution dropping down here, leading us into this scene where you just have like a pool of like just toxic waste, and you have these shanty homes, and you know what I mean? Like you're trying to set up the idea between the two. Or even like having like showing that the city up here or the town here is kind of old, decrepit, it's kind of like hobbled together, and then you have in the distance that I guess that town or that city where the rich people are, and they're in the air, they're kind of like away from things, whatever it is, but like showing that that dynamic in your images, I think could be pretty important, especially for a main key frame. You know what I mean? Like something that really describes your world. Think like if you had to sell somebody on this idea, right? For that, you know, they see these images, like what do they need to know? You know, so that's how I would start that. And after that, dude, it really is like start establishing, I guess, what are things like, how is he, like, what is he taking? Why is he taking it? You know, or how is he taking it? Because right now it's like, okay, cool. So it's him and a drone. So he can only carry enough for one person's worth, you know what I mean? Bringing it back. And, you know, so he can't be bringing a lot of food, right? So he probably is taking some sort of resource that is lightweight, like money or cash or credits. I don't know, whatever it is. But the whole idea would be like try to think about that action of like him actually stealing something. And then whenever you create these boards, the next images that kind of come out of this, it's like, you know, what is he setting up? How is he doing it? How is he bringing it down? And give us a bunch of scenarios. That way you can kind of latch onto a couple and then like really figure them out. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Yeah, I was thinking possibly another keyframe could be like an action one, because I was thinking like a snowmobile chase, like going after like a train would be pretty sweet. But yeah, for also for like the rich people, I was thinking it'd be cool if they had sort of like a maybe like a climate controlled like domes or something like that would might have a cool kind of like translucent, you know that vibe, like the sci-fi thing. They're just up there in like their bubbles.
That'd be cool, man. I think, yeah, it's like, you know, because you want to start creating that like dynamic between the two factions, right? And you want to like almost like it's almost like gross for the rich people to kind of like, you know, interact with the poor people essentially. You know what I mean? Like or like create that feeling, you know what I mean? So I think that'd be pretty cool. Sick, man. I think as a whole, man, I think the images are starting to look pretty good. I would say an issue that you're probably going to run into, depending on what this is for, right? It looks like it's for a game. So, you know, you're making a gameplay experience. So when you're designing, as you're going deeper into this design process, right now we're just in the very beginning, so it's not a huge deal. But how is this game fun, right? What is the interesting about it? Because there's certain games where like there's puzzle mechanics, or there's a combat mechanic, or there's a racing mechanic, whatever it is. And whenever you design this thing, you want to think about that, because it's going to give you a format to kind of play with. You know what I mean? Like it's going to give you something to design for. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know,
Come up with like
go ahead.
come up with even if it's just like silhouettes and structures, try to make it in a way so that like in future design phases it's going to be easier to show like gameplay aspects, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Because like you're going to create like something where let's say he has to come to a gate and he has to hack into it. So there's a puzzle mechanic, or he has to like reroute some power towards the bottom because the structure is like kind of off in some area. You know what I mean? If that's the puzzle of he has to figure out how to power this thing. So he has to find a power source. He has to plug it in. Is like kind of off in some area. You know what I mean? If that's the puzzle of he has. Sorry. Yeah, Michael, you were you were repeating. But anyway, so with the idea, the idea would be, you know, when you're creating these spaces, try to think about, you know, maybe putting something like, oh, there's a box right here, or there's like something to be like, oh, he needs to interact with this thing somehow, right? Because in gameplay, in a movie, he can just walk around, he can run in there, and he can like be an action hero and do his thing. But in a game, it's got to be fun. There's got to be something that he has to do, whether that's sneaking around, right? If it's a combat experience, he has to like take out some guards. So now you're getting into the territory of combat. And when you're doing that, really try to show those moments, because that's what's going to sell the game. The setting itself is already supposed to be cool, but when you show the key moment, try to show them actually doing the action. You know, it's like, oh, he has to sneak up on this guard, or he has to sneak around this guard to get to where he needs to go. So there's that sneaking mechanic, you know, that a game would have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so maybe like come up with a couple new keyframe ideas altogether that highlight a little more gameplay, and then maybe in the end I could have like sort of a cinematic shot, but then also have like a gameplay shot.
That's exactly it, right? And that's what I mean. Why like this is going a good direction. It's the first pass, so it's like it's good. Moving into the next phase, that's what I would try. I would focus more of my attention into that shot because it gives us more of the game, right? It gives us more of the purpose of this image. Like, why am I even interested in this project? You know what I mean? So it's just going to help you out a little bit more. It's going to set you up to be like, oh, it's a puzzle game. Cool. You know, he has to figure out how to MacGyver his way through the situation, or it's a shooter game, right? There's combat here. He needs to take out these people. And depending on what that gameplay is what your keyframes are going to look like, you know?
Right on, for sure.
Sweet. But yeah, dude, great work, man.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. So everything's looking pretty good, right? And I'm glad a lot like this, you know, it's week 1 and people are turning in a lot of work. As we're going, right? If this gets out of hand, if it gets like too much, I'll set something up for you guys to, I guess, to, you know, so that way you still get crit, but maybe it doesn't take up the whole stream kind of thing. We're an hour in, so it's not a big deal. But just, you know, just keep going, right? And remember, like, whenever we're doing this, remember kind of what phase that we're in. For some of you here, that there's some of you that are first kind of, you know, joining in, you know, I don't know how many classes you've taken, but you can kind of see where like some of my previous students, like, you know, some of my previous students have been submitting work. You can kind of see how on point they are with a lot of the design stuff, because this is what we think about, right? They know there's 10 weeks left. So it's something where, or 9 weeks in this case, they're going to be able to adapt. They're going to be able to change things and add things. And it's not really too precious that it's, that we're just kind of doing the, I guess like thumbnails and rough images, right? Because we'll clean that up. It'll look good. It's going to be amazing, right? But we just need something worth pursuing, right? So, all right, guys, let's get it. Sorry, I'm missing some messages in the Discord. Oh, for I guess Grandpa Mishma. When you submit feedback, it's in the Whip and Crit channel. So just whenever you have something, just submit it. And ideally for everybody, when you are submitting, right, submit it like in the week that we're supposed to be talking about it, right? If you just give me like a finished keyframe, you know, it doesn't, you know what I mean? I can give you crit, but it's like it's in a weird spot, right? So just kind of like wait for that moment, right? Try to follow. It's more about following along rather than you just receiving crit whenever you're supposed to receive it, kind of thing, you know? Because this is more of a session, and we're trying to not just, I guess, learn from your crit, but you want to learn from other people's crit too, you know? Like I think something important that I feel in every class is, and you actually kind of saw it just now, where when one person gets a crit, generally speaking, it's like the same crit for most people, right? It's like, because it's the same ideas, it's the same mistakes, same road bumps that you kind of run into. So when you see people's crits, it really does, I think for me, it helps kind of reframe like what I should be thinking about, what I should be doing. You know what I mean? So just things to think about, you know? So, but cool. Let's dip in. All right. Wait, hold up. There it is. Boom. Let's go to, nope, not that one. I have like folders within folders. It gets crazy. Let me copy these. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Paste those in there. I'll open these up. Wait, hold up. All right. So I did a little bit of work on my side too. Not too much. It wasn't like an insane amount, right? But I am just kind of like, just painting, you know. I did this on Saturday. A little bit today too, just like kind of touch some things up, but nothing too much. They're still pretty loose. I'm not taking this further than we need to, just because, don't look at that too close. Just because, you know, I don't want to just like show up with like, oh, look at this badass thing. You know what I mean? Like I want it to kind of be just something small, something like, oh, we just made some quick images just to kind of show you the point, right? We didn't take it further than the other painting, right? And that's the whole idea behind this, right? I did have another one. I didn't really like the way it turned out. Actually, I should probably show that one too, just as the why I didn't like it. So, but let's do this. Oops, I'll do this in the order that I did this in. How about that? Boom. All right, let's see. So I saved out the steps as I was kind of going. So, nothing, just to kind of show what I was thinking about, right? Actually, let me center these. It's driving me crazy. Boom, boom, boom. I had another one. Let me show you what I didn't like. It wasn't quite working. No, shit, maybe it will. Who knows? But got another image here. All right. So this is the kind of like, it was kind of like mid sketch. It was kind of like, a thought that was kind of going. I was like, I don't know if I like where that's headed, right? So let me kind of explain where I'm going. I'll keep it smaller because it is rougher, technically speaking. But so first image, we saw me do this last week, right? We're just trying to get ideas out. It's just shapes. I generally know what's going on. Not everybody will at the end of the day, but it is something where you can kind of tell what's happening, right? It's like this giant centipede type thing around this giant rock. You kind of like these sandy, watery kind of ground. And then the next one I did, right? I was just kind of like, I was looking at like Japanese folklore, like just monsters, right? That they have. And there's this thing called a kappa, right? And I was just thinking, what if it's like coming out of the waterfall and it's like, it's just this big turtle monster type thing, I guess very heavily not inspired by any particular water type Pokemon that have cannons on their backs. But, it's something where, maybe he's like coming out of the waterfall. He just like woke up. He's just doing his thing. And I'm just standing there like, I just took the picture. You know what I mean? Like, because this is for a reminder for everybody. This is a redesign or loosely interpreted redesign of Pokemon Snap, right? It's basically just animal photography, right? And so whenever I'm designing this, I'm just thinking like, what are moments that we'll actually see these creatures in, right? And I'm just trying to create these ideas, and whether they're cool or not, who knows, right? But, I was thinking, what if he just came out and you could just see the waterfall just kind of running over his shoulders, and he's just kind of like waking up. Maybe he's yawning, he's doing something cool, or maybe he looks intimidating as fuck, but it's just kind of like the start of it, right? And I just kind of loosely bash some things in, the same clouds that you're seeing over and over, right? You'll see in the first painting, you see it in the third painting, you see it in the fourth, you see it. I would have put it in the fifth, but I didn't get that far into it. So next one, right? I was thinking, what if we're just driving around in a field and then you see like these deers, or you see these, I guess, deer-like creatures, right? And so what I wanted to show was half of the body. Oops, let me make the new layer on top. Half of the body in light, where it's like maybe there's a giant cast shadow from something, I don't know, something off screen. But then like in the shadows where you can't really see the texture or the I guess the forms as much, right? You see these silhouettes and there's like these holes, right? It's like this creature that, I don't know, is made of mechanical parts. Same reason why we have like that leg for the centipede, right? And a lot of the same ideas are kind of populating all the images. We're just creating moments where it's like, that's sick, because you're seeing something that's very familiar, but it's a little bit different, right? And that's kind of what I'm trying to create here with a lot of these images, because whenever you're playing the game like Pokemon Snap, right, it's familiar. Like if you do any like nature photography or anything like that, it's very familiar to you in the sense that they're just animals doing their things. So you take, like, you're going around a safari, right? So that's the kind of images that we're creating here today, or that we created, because I'm just trying to create something that kind of recreates those moments, right? Whether they're good or not, shit, they're probably not, just being real. But it is something where like I'm just trying to create something that might be kind of interesting, and then we'll get the details later, right? So focusing on like just color and graphic read, right? Most of the time it's how do I make these things pop off? So in this case, like this whole deer is in shadow against a light background. It's a darker deer on top of a light background, shadow, light background, right? Same thing here. It's just the basics of image making each and every time, changing my camera angle, changing my ideas, changing my creature. And then hopefully we can kind of take this into, different thing, right? I was thinking this would be kind of cool where we have this creature, this crane type creature, right? And all of these creatures are like things that you would see in like Japanese lore type of thing. And that's another reason why I didn't like this fifth one, but we'll get there in a second. It was like, I was thinking about this Japanese crane, and I was like, what if it was like made of a wing part, right? So like a plane wing, right? and then you could see like the framing of that wing inside of here, and it's just like decaying, it's rusting, it's breaking, right? But you know, it's alive now. It's not really falling apart like it was, right? Because it, I guess, got reanimated essentially. And I'm just trying to like see what that looks like, you know, like wouldn't that be sick? Like it's this crane just lands in front of you, and then you just take a picture of it, and then you could just see like right through it. You're like, what the hell, you know? So little things like that. Looking at this image, right, I just want to kind of talk about it. And I was like, why don't I like this, right? Because I was watching, I was on YouTube, and I was looking at this Game of Thrones thing. And then this is the scene where the dragons are going to fly. I was like, oh, that's a cool composition. So I just tried it out, right? I was like, let's see what happens. And I didn't really like where it was going. And I just created a dragon. I was like, I'll figure out the details later. I just need to know. I just needed to feel like a creature first and foremost, right? And so the first thing I did was I made a silhouette, and I kind of bashed in this ship. I was looking at, excuse me. I was looking at a carrier ships. These old World War II carriers from Japan, and it looks sick. And I just clipped it in just to kind of get me started. You can kind of like see some of the photo there, right? You can kind of see it, you know, just to give me some details. And I just kind of like messed with it to try to give me something, I guess, something half decent, right? And maybe it's okay, but there's a lot of things that I'm not really happy with in terms of, for one, I think the lore itself, right? I think the creature itself doesn't really quite work for me, just because it's more of a Western type dragon than it is like an Asian type dragon, right? Especially in a Japanese culture, right? And then on top of the fact that, you know, I feel like this is a stretch. I feel like this is a little weird. So I'm trying to think, you know, maybe I can turn that into something else, but I was like, screw it, you know. But I did want to show you because, you know, you do create images that you're just not proud of. And something where it's like a batch of 4 like this, I'd probably show my creative director, art director, whoever, my lead, right? I'm like, hey, what do you think about some of these? And I talk about some of the ideas that we're having here, because they're all different animals, first and foremost. They're all different environments. And then they all have like different kind of things associated with them, and they're all related in this topic. You could see all of them together. They would still probably work in a project together. But it's just something where each one kind of focuses on different things. And as we're kind of going, I'm going to probably take one of these or maybe a few of them and kind of take them to finish. But just kind of showing where, like, you know, maybe a few don't work and you can get rid of those pretty easily. But this took me 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Just as the breakdown for what we have for like this one, for example, right? You know, stupid, dirty sketch. Like that's 10 seconds. I did all of these maybe within 10 minutes, right? Because I was like, oh, maybe it's just something coming out of the water. Cool. And graphic read, done, right? Same steps we did last week. And then I just added some color, right? I had a color reference. I used it was a still from something. It was a movie frame, just like last week, right? It's the same exact process. I did use a little bit of the line tool. I was kind of messing with that. I saw some Mike Hernandez paintings, and I was like, dude, those are sick. And then started doing this. And then from there, same thing, right? Looking at these, boom, boom, right? See how like, and it's like, it's not really anything. That doesn't even, it looks funny because when you see like the deer itself or what is supposed to be a deer, you're like, what the hell, you know? But it's like, I don't know, maybe 10 of these, right? You're only seeing 4, but I did 10 of these rough sketches. And I just got rid of them. I was like, screw it, right? Just like that 5th painting that I'm not showing anymore. It's like, you know, you don't need to show every idea, but as we're kind of progressing, right? Then the graphic read starts showing, and then I started kind of messing with the I guess the color read and stuff like that, the tone and this and that. So same here. Oops, where's that? Did I not save it? There it is. Cool. Right, super loose. And I just started off like a lot of these things. It was just like I just started off with the straight up animal. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I'll just make it mechanical later, because the whole point is it's supposed to feel like a creature. So, but we'll figure that out as we go. And then boom, cool. So pretty simple, right? To be honest, I guess are you guys feeling any of them? Any in particular? Just curious. Anybody like, dude, it'd be sick if we did this one or that one or whatever. And don't say the 5th one. Don't do that. Don't mess with me like that. Don't mess with me.
The dragon one was really good.
No, man. Don't do it to me, dude.
I like the deer one if you included a point of view of sitting in a Jeep or something.
Oh, that'd be
Like
cool.
camera in the foreground.
Mm-hmm. I could do a couple of these too, because I think something that's gonna happen, right? Once we start getting into like some of the assets and stuff, we'll start running out of. I guess it won't take that long to do some of them. So I'm like, maybe I could do 2 of them, because I do like where the centipede one's going. I think I want to continue that one for sure, but maybe I can like kind of flip flop back and forth between 2 of them, and kind of start refining the ideas, you know? Because I like how large that first top left creature is. And then I think like the top right one is a little close, right? Where it's like, it's too similar. Like this watery large creature, right? And then I do like the deer one a lot. I'm trying to see like how I would do that. Anybody else? Just curious what you guys think.
I think the bird one's sick. So good.
The deer
I
one?
dropped a ref one. No, the bird one.
The
Like,
bird
I dropped a ref as well in the live chat. I don't know if you've seen the Angel of the North in the UK, but it just reminds me of that as well.
Oh, sick. This is for the stream. That's what he's talking about. That's sick. Nice. That's a real thing in the UK?
Yeah, it was really controversial when it got funded, but yeah, it exists. I've seen it. It is huge. It's sick. Yeah. The textures on it are amazing as well. When you get up close, it's all like they like rusted it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Dude, just imagine, like, you know, because right now it's like I was thinking like normal bird, and that's the cool part about all this, right? Where whenever you're designing these things, right, like you're creating this world, you know, the reason I like keeping things loose, when you spell things out too much, when you kind of give it too much information, it kind of restricts you, right? And you don't let the imagination of the viewer kind of take over, right? But, you know, because maybe like, dude, what if it was like that big? Like, what the fuck? You know, like he just saw like Ho-Oh or something. You know what I mean? Like if we're referencing Pokemon, it's just like, you know, something where you get the input of someone else's imagination, right? And something that happens in production a lot is they'll be like, oh, that's really cool. I really like how you know, did this thing. And then, you know, you weren't even thinking about that at all, right? It wasn't even like an idea that I guess like popped up in your head, but then you just, you know, you just nod your head and you're like, hell yeah, man, that's exactly what I was thinking, because they're paying you, right? At the end of the day. And so whenever you're creating your images, you want to just give just a little bit of leeway for the audience to be like, oh, that's kind of cool. What is that? You know, and that's why like half of this stuff is just scribbles, right? Because you'll figure it out. You know what it is, you know? I don't need to spell out every single thing because we'll fix that once we get there. I'll make this look less like an actual bird and more like, you know, whatever thing it's supposed to look like. But it's something where, you know, just leaving the audience to kind of guess, you know?
I remember in Pokemon Snap, like there was kind of like 2 kind of photos you could take. It was either like the animal doing its thing, or you would like throw something at it, and then it was kind of like a move or a flourish. So I kind of agree. It's kind of cool if you get like the centipede is kind of doing his own thing, and then the bird is almost kind of like presenting. You know, maybe like you disturbed it or something.
Oh, that's a good reason. I like that. See, it's like, it's at the end of the day, right? I kind of like all 4 of them, right? But yeah, it's things like that where whenever you are designing out your frames, right? Now it's like, oh, there's a reason for it to be a certain way. You know what I mean? There's a reason for us to have a certain image, because it's a moment that you can actually interact with, or you can that happens in game, right? So that's a really good point. So if you guys don't have a better reason than that, I don't know, guys. I think Riley just killed it.
Also, if you look at the deer painting, it almost looks like the bird shot is casting a shadow on the deer shot.
Oh, dude. What if it was like...
What if you join those together and deer can be there for scale, and there, because the thing is, it's pretty monochromatic right now, and then if you add a third color, which is going to be that nice green neutral color of the ground, it kind of looks like they could belong to the same painting. Of course, you have to change the composition a bit, but the deer kind of look at the bird almost, and it's casting a shadow on them.
Yeah, like imagine if this was the full square. Like, you know, obviously there's grace. There's missing, but
that's
like,
exactly what I was
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
when you moved it up. I was like,
dude,
changes
that's what
here
I'm
and there.
talking
You
about,
could-
man. Let's go. And dude, that's the, like, for everybody, that's exactly what I mean, right? It's just like, what do you see? Like, everybody sees something a little bit different, and I am not creative enough to just carry something like that by myself, right? But now it's like we can have, you know, maybe like instead of one image, right? It could be like this one where it's a little like it's let's say this is the two of them, and then so this is one image right here, the one we started. We're probably going to continue that one because I do like where that's going. But then these two can be turned into one, right? And this is exactly what I mean by always having multiple images, because you're never going to be able to change your idea much after, you know, after you only make one image, right? Because if there's no other input, if there's no other ideas floating around, you can't combine them, you know? And especially like in a team setting, like in a studio, this shit happens all day, right? Maybe not this exact scenario, right? But you know, you have your art director's input, you have your creative director's input, you have the rest of the team, you know, the story team, the writing team, the, you know, directors, whoever. And on top of that, your own teammates, right? Just the people that are, you know, the other viz dev artists, the other concept artists. And, you know, we just talk about these things like, oh, that'd be really cool. You know, obviously you got to be careful who you're getting your advice from, because sometimes the task requires certain things. But especially in an exploration phase, they'll do stuff like this all the time. And it's the beauty of teamwork. That's why when you see production work, for those of you that are like, haven't started working yet, like maybe your friends have started working, right? And maybe they've shown you some stuff. And it's like the friend that you knew when you first started, like you guys kind of went to class together, right? And then you were growing together, and then, you know, they just happened to be picked up a little bit earlier than you, or, you know, whatever, right? And then you see some of the work that they're doing at the studio. You're like, what the hell? Like, how did they get so much better out of nowhere? It's not just them. It's the fact that they have an art director, they have a lead, they have a senior, they have, you know, other coworkers, right? Equals, stuff like that. And then the project is not fully thought out by them either, because the project has writers, it has, you know, the showrunner or whatever. And the culmination of all of that gets distilled into this one person's painting. And then you look at it, you're like, oh shit, you know, it looks so good. Like they leveled up so much. I'm not taking away credit from these people. They're working hard. They're doing their thing. But just remember, when you work as a team, the ideas become so much better. You know, that's why, I don't know how many of you experience it, but whenever you work on your own project by yourself, right, in the vacuum of space, or you work in a portfolio class, it usually ends up very different, right? The portfolio you do at home just doesn't hit as hard sometimes when like for whatever reason, I don't know why, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't hit as hard than whenever you're kind of working as a team or working in a class setting where you actually get feedback, right? And that's what we're setting up here. So for those of you that are like wanting to participate, wanting to get better, you know what I'm saying? Like it's free of charge, you know, just show up, just be there, and let's work on some ideas, you know? So I highly recommend that. You know, it just made my painting better. I hope some of these things that we're talking about for everybody is, you know, kind of helping push some of those thoughts, you know? But yeah, we're going to kind of continue that. So with today, right, the focus is going to be creating a variation, like kind of pushing the idea a bit further. I do like where this centipede one's going, or where it's already at, and we can kind of save that, right? Right now, obviously there's some things I need to do to it to make it look better, but I'm not worried about it anymore, right? Just because it's in a good spot and I can take my time to refine it, and I'll probably do that later. Probably do that for my homework essentially, right? What I am going to do though is create this image, you know, this thing, whatever it's supposed to look like, you know, create that moment, right? And I'll kind of show you how I do something like that. So, but Let's go. Woo! This is a live stream with a crit is definitely a lot harder. I will say that because you do run out of time. I will say that was the cool thing about live stream last time. The last year when we did it, it was very when you get 3 hours to do a demo, it's incredible. You know, especially if you're used to like doing like 45-minute demos during real classes. Like because I teach classes, and you know, there's always a lecture, there's always a crit, and then that takes up 2 hours already out of 3, and then you're just like hauling ass through your through your demos, and sometimes you kind of tank. So it is fun. Cool. All right, let's see if I can do this effectively. So something that I want to do, actually, what I should do is this. Let's start, darkening this down first so I don't go blind. Cool. Oh, if you guys have questions in the Discord or the live stream, just hook it up. Let's talk. We're in the demo phase, so we can kind of talk about non-project related things as you watch me fail at this painting. So, oh, Kylo Legends, thanks for sharing, man. I really appreciate it. You know, it's really helpful. I think you know, any little thing that you guys do. You know, I know a lot of students here. A lot of my students have been sharing it on their networks and stuff like that, and it's really it's really helpful. It really does mean a lot. So, you know, I really do appreciate that. That demo was pretty good yesterday for a Woven in One student. So we're a bunch of assholes. Not me and Alex, but me and some of my old coworkers, and we'd be at work, right? We're professionals, like we're like, you know what I mean? We've been doing this for a second, and it's not like we're amazing or anything, but we do have a sense of, you know, competence, I guess, right? And so just to mess with the other coworkers, we'd be just kind of walking around, and you know, when we were in studio, you know, they'd be sitting there at their desk, and then they'd be working, and then you just kind of walk up, and you look behind them like, oh, that's pretty good. And then you go for a World Building 1 student, you know, because just to mess with their confidence, you know, just to see what happens, you know, and then it'd just be a fun time. Everyone knew we were joking, so it's not like we never hazed each other, but it was a fun thing. It was a part of our day. Or like you walk up and be like, oh, that perspective's a little off, and you don't even show them where, you just walk off, you know. So we're not good people. What am I doing? What's my comp? Let's see. I liked the so the image that I had, it had like this kind of hill. It wasn't like a perfectly round or perfectly horizontal thing. It wasn't like a completely level landscape, because we had, you know, the deer kind of doing their thing. Cool. So I'm gonna kind of start there, and then what I'm gonna do, the trick of the day is to start the first comp. Where's my mouse at? Here it is. How do I show? Because I don't want it to be this and then like a rock, right? That looks dumb. That's not big brain moves. You know what I mean? So how do I show this? What's the best way?
Wouldn't it be like an op shot?
It could be.
Slightly.
And that's where I think something to keep in mind, right? Whenever we're creating a new shot, what I don't want to do is fully stick to the exact idea where it's like it's 100% going to be the exact layout that we just had, because here, I'll go back to it real quick. Where is it actually? Oops. Where are my windows at? Show all windows. Boom. All right. So this shot here and this shot here, right? They're two different ideas, right? I had a shot where I'm just kind of walking around, and you know, it's just looking at the deer, right? It's just like you're on the ground with them, and then on the right, you're looking up at the crane because you're experiencing this creature that just landed, right? You're just like, it just like boom, and you're like, oh shit, you know what I mean? And like you're trying to create that moment. So you can't just combine them. You can't just do the exact comp and do that and then do that, right? Because it's not going to work out. And that's what I just had, where it's like, it's just odd. It's a weird spot to put something. And so what I'm trying to do here is capture the same moments, right? But it be a little more natural feeling. You know what I mean? Like it feels like one scene versus two different scenes happening. You know what I'm saying? So however that's going to end up. This is kind of me figuring things out. Just kind of playing with it and see how it goes, you know? So, because I'm like, because what if? Because how big is that thing, right? Because, you know, what if the deer are like small? You know? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Oh, Lewis Hawk. Where can I join the Discord? So, I was going to wait for the end, but if you go to here, I'll put this somewhere. Shit, where can I put this? If you go to my Instagram, so if you go to any of the Instagrams, like the Digital Vegetable one or the Kenny Vo Art, if you look for just Kenny Vo Art, you'll see me. Hopefully, you know it's, you know what I mean. If you click my link tree, right, I'll show you, I'll walk you through it. Profile, boom. All right. I have two messages, but if you go to my link tree, click that, and you'll see join the Digital Vegetables live stream Discord server. So click that. You'll drop into the Discord. And be able to participate. So I'll talk about this more a little bit later towards the end as a more formal thing. You did ask now, so you know I'll just share it now so you can be there. But for everybody here, right, it is please just be respectful to everybody that's there, right? You know, at the end of the day, these people, you're probably gonna be working with these people one day, right? There's a lot of skilled people in here. There's a lot of eyes. There's students. There's professionals, and everywhere in between. So if you are going to join, you know, I definitely welcome you. Please just be professional, right? I do recommend changing your name to your real name. It really is hard to know who, you know, Chicken Nuggets 97 is. You know what I mean? Like it's how do I hire that person? You know what I mean? But if you put your real name, you know, hopefully we can kind of get some eyes on your work or just participate, be helpful, you know, because everyone is really helpful in there. I really am proud of everybody in there. Don't tell them I said that, but you know, there's super helpful people, and you know, just be part of that community, you know. So, but Joaquin says, "Hey Kenny, love your work, man. First time catching one of your streams. Shout out to Alex. Nice. What's up, Alex? For letting me know you got this live stream stuff going. Yeah. Appreciate everyone sharing the work. So." If someone shows up with the Chicken Nuggets 97 handle, yeah, you know. Trying to think, what's the goal here? All right, so this is an issue, right? And I want to kind of point this out for, not an issue, but I mean, we'll figure it out. But it's something where it's like, what do you do when you can't figure something out, right? Not that you can't figure something out, but you're kind of having trouble, right? And so what I like to do is I go to my Instagram, go to the ArtStation, whatever. But I'm just looking at other artists, just being inspired, right? How do they show things? How do they, oh, that's a cool shot, right? Not, you know, I mean, the painting's cool too, but like the shot itself, right? How do I show that? Or even something like this, where it's like, you have the ground, it's maybe I'm a little further out, and maybe it's a more pulled back moment, right? Because we have, I guess, a shot that's pretty close, right? You're looking at the centipede shot, like that's basically a first person view. So maybe I could do like a third person view to try to help that out, right? And these are just images that I liked, you know? And maybe, dude, it could be something like this where like it's just on a separate kind of cliffside and you just see it drop down, you know? And then you were on like a separate kind of location. Oh, that'd be dope. And I'm just like just flipping through, you know, these are artists that I liked, or art from artists that I liked, and I'm just being inspired. Right? I'm not copying one 100%. And even then, this is like no one owns composition, but just being like, how would you do that, right? Because just imagine now, it's like instead of this kind of ibex here, I think it's an ibex, right? Maybe it's like a crow or something that landed right here, and the deer kind of towards the bottom. Or, you know, maybe it's like a waterfall shot. Oh, maybe we could combine that waterfall. That's cool. Ooh, I like that idea. Hold the phone, dog. Hold up. All right. All right. Let me show you. So what if I had something here, right? And the bottom plane is like where the deers are at, and they're hanging out, they're drinking water, doing their thing. You know what I mean? And then I just have it land on the top here. It's just like far away, or it's just a little further. It's in like the mid to background kind of section, like front of the background and back of the midground, right? That area. And, you know, we can still have the waterfall idea here. That'd be sick, because now we get a couple different ideas. Let's see. Let's work with this. Boom. I'm gonna put the horizon line here. Boom. I'm gonna have that a little like that. Maybe there's like something jutting out. Maybe it's like a tree. Like it's like some sort of like dam type thing. It's just like logs stacked, right? And we have like, you know, things. And then bird. Bro, let's go. All right, let's see. It's like Simba. Boom. Cool, right? Beautiful, amazing. Best drawing you've ever seen, I know. You guys are probably looking at this like, dude, this guy teaches people? The fuck? Yes, you're damn right I do.
Honestly, this is the most accurate sketching phase that I've ever seen.
You know, for those that are in my, like, it's funny because like, you know, I do this kind of sketching in my class like all day. Like it's funny too because I do it a little on purpose. I am a little tighter when I'm at work because my art director does need to see this. But it's something where it's just like, you know, I just want to really emphasize like, hey guys, just be loose, you know? Like, don't worry, we'll fix it. It'll look good, I promise, you know? But I have to make sure that this painting is even worth doing, you know? Boom. Oh, dude, my guy, he's gonna be right there. He's gonna be like in the shadow of this giant thing. Sick, man. Let's go. Dude, easy. Oops. Why didn't that do it? Oh, okay, it is doing it. So. Oh, then Kylo Legends says, how do you not get stuck in the inspirational rabbit hole? You know, man, I don't know. I think something that something we have to kind of be aware of, right, is like, yeah, there's a level of things where it's like you can, I guess, keep going, right? You can like kind of continue to just kind of look at reference and kind of do these things. But, you know, there is, you know, I have to finish first and foremost. I only have like an hour and a half left, right? So I have to do something, right? And then two, I guess I don't worry about it, mainly because like if I'm inspired already, like cool, I got it. You know what I mean? And this is funny too because this is the train of thought that I just went through my head, and it's the most roundabout, dumbest thing ever, right? But hold on, I'll show you what I just did. Cause your boy, let's see. Where's it at? Let me go to my saved. All right, I was scrolling. Right, I was like, all right, cool. These are sick. And then I clicked on, what is it? This one. I was like, that's a cool shot, because I just wanted that. Because I was thinking, oh, what if they're like up top here, right? and the deer were like on the ground, so they were just drinking water. So the drinking water got stuck in my head, and then but I was like, oh, but I wanted a shot like this because this is kind of what I had before, right? Where it was like this slanting kind of ground, and they were just kind of stuck there. It just pulled out. But then I saw, where the hell is it? This one. And I was like, oh yeah, this reminds me of my painting that I just did with the turtle guy, right? This painting. With not Blastoise. This painting. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. You know, I do have something that would probably work. And this is kind of that third painting. And you can see how, like, literally I just took from all the paintings that I liked and just put them all together, right? And half of these ideas weren't even mine. Someone else brought it up, and I was like, we're running with it, right? But the whole idea is, whenever I have something that kind of works, that at least has potential, just go. Because what you don't want to do is start looking at your, I guess your inspiration, your reference board, and then be like, oh, but what if I had, there could be more, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to do that because, well, you might not need it, first and foremost. And then two, it's just like, it's just wasting time. You know what I mean? It just doesn't help you kind of figure things out easily. You know what I mean? So I highly recommend, like, whenever you find your reference, make the image first. And if I get stuck here, if I don't like what I'm doing, I will find more reference. I will like go, but I need the image first, right? Because I want to get this out of my head. I need this to be like on a page and just be halfway decent first, because if I just let it go, you can kind of forget, you know what I'm saying? But it's also like when your boss is on your ass and he's like, hey man, you feel like getting paid today? Because I feel like getting a painting. And then, you kind of step on it, you know what I mean? So they never say that to you. That's fucked up. But they mean it though. I'll tell you that. Oh, and for everybody, so just as a heads up, the live stream chat, I'm gonna kind of prioritize the YouTube side, right? So if you guys want to ask something, ask it there, just because I have to kind of like balance multiple chats to kind of talk through. So it makes it a little easier on me. Obviously, if you don't like me, I mean, just keep talking in the Discord chat. But it is something where managing a painting is already kind of hard. So trying to limit the amount of chats we're getting here. So I mean, you guys can talk in there. That's mostly for you guys. So just as a heads up. And you won't catch me without my grid. Oh, daily reminder: if you're not adding your grid onto your paintings, just don't. You know what I mean? Like, just don't and start adding it. It's really all you need to do. It's that simple. You don't want to mess up your perspective, and if you're somebody that doesn't believe they need a grid, you're gonna mess up your perspective, and then your art director is gonna be like, "Hey man, you're wasting my time. Why are you here? It's such a junior mistake." And then boom. And then I'm just gonna say, "Hey man, I told you so. Should have just did it." Or you get the crit where they're like, "Hey, your perspective's off," and then you go, "Psych." You look them in the eyes and go, "Nope, not today, buddy." Just kidding. Don't do that to your leads. It's not cool. It won't work. Oops. All right, who's got questions? Who's got something they need to ask? Who's got statements? Who wants to know things? Boom. All right. Damn, nobody? Nobody? Let's just make it a square. All right. And just like last week, right? Like the same exact process that I'm doing. it doesn't change, right? Even though, and I do want to kind of show you guys some stuff that I was messing with just to kind of put in something new. Well, I'll get to that in a second, but whenever you're working, try not to change your working process, just because if you do, it just makes things difficult. I know for me, for a long time, I had this issue where I would, I guess that feels too far away. Hold up, give me a sec. I would change my working process depending on what style I needed to output, essentially, right? If I needed to do photo real, my quality would change just because I was changing my, I guess the process that I was doing, right? I had a better process for photo real than I did for like stylized things. And I would drop the ball a lot when it came to stylized work, just because I didn't have as much practice with it. And anytime I did do it, it was at home, so it didn't really matter, right? But in a production setting, it matters. It is a big deal that you get this shit right on the first try, just because you don't want to spend all day on a painting, right? You don't want to spend an excessive amount of time doing something, right? So whenever I'm doing this, regardless of what style, like I did this process yesterday for one of my style and mood class at Brainstorm, and it turns out, I mean, I don't want to say photo real, but it's photo bash, so it's a pretty intricate, I guess, process. And then I did this for my world building for animation class, and it turned out stylized. It doesn't really matter what I'm doing; it's going to be the same regardless. So anytime you paint, anytime you're trying to create images, just know that. Just try to stay consistent, because if you can, it's gonna make your work just that much better. So. Oh, I'm gonna regret making that different layer. Let's see. Wait, where's that? That needs to be above. Yeah, there you go. Sick. So right now it's like this weird, I'm just imagining like this tree, right? Kind of just having a fell or something, and it's like just in, like there's a waterfall right here, and it's just like in the waterfall. I need to make that look believable and not so dumb looking, but we'll get there, I hope. Whether it be today or next week, we'll get there. Pale Legend says, how do you remain consistent with art and keep pumping out stuff? I feel like this is the most important for work, but I struggle with it. Yeah, that is a big thing to kind of, I guess, figure out, right? Staying consistent with, like, I know for me, when I first started, right, I was watching like Mark Crilly videos on YouTube. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he was, he's an old art YouTuber. I don't know if he still does videos. He might. But anyway, I was just watching that, and I'd try to draw with, I would just try to draw as much as I could, which ended up being like an hour, right? Like, you would be painting or whatever assignment you're trying to work on, whatever study you're trying to do, and you'd be like exhausted after an hour, right? I don't know if you guys feel that way, but I was like dying, because when I was in college, how long does anybody in college study? A couple hours? You know what I mean? Any normal person, if you're a high achiever, that's one thing, but you know what I mean? Like any normal human being, right? It's like, oh, I studied for an hour, I'm gonna die. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it felt. But the thing is, you want to build it, right? For maybe a week, do an hour, do 30 minutes, do 10 minutes, right? And then after that, do an hour and a half. Do a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And eventually you get to this point to where you are starting to, hit hours that you didn't even know you could do. You know what I mean? Like, I know for me, when I first started, it was really difficult to, I guess, work for anything more than an hour. And most artists nowadays, like when you're, I guess, working, right? An hour is like a warm up. Like most people's, just being real. If you are having trouble working, do as much as you can, but just know that you got to be doing more, right? And eventually you kind of build up to it, but just do as much as you can. The whole point is it's not about putting in all the hours at once, right? You don't brush your teeth, freaking for an hour once a year, right? You brush it for 2 minutes a day, every day, and just do a little bit at a time. And eventually you kind of start gaining ground, and that time kind of starts shortening, or mentally it starts shortening for you. And you kind of start getting to the point to where you're doing 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, right? For any student, I highly recommend minimum 4 hours daily. Like that's, if you want to be like on pace with everybody, right? 4 hours is kind of what I would not go any lower than that. And it's if it sounds like a lot to you, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, but 4 hours is minimum, right? After that, once you start working, right, you want to kind of start bringing it back down, because what happens is, you start realizing that working more actually gets harder than working less. So something that happens in the professional field, it's really easy to continue to work. Like it sounds hilarious. It sounds dumb, but it's actually really easy to go past 8 hours. It's actually, you kind of start finding yourself unable to stop after 8 hours, right? And it sounds psychotic. But that's really what happens. Like a lot of like high achieving artists, people that are really good, right? You talk to them and they're like, yeah, I've been painting for 12 hours a day, and it's not healthy. It's not, it's not a lifestyle that you want to do, but that's what they're doing, and you kind of want to start bringing it back to 8, because that's, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. That's a normal job, right? You want this to be a normal job. And so what I recommend for artists is when you first start, try to get to 4. When you start working as an employee, start to bring it back to 8, right? And try to bring that lifestyle back. I mean, I'm saying that now, and it's 8 o'clock at night on my end. I'm still painting, and I've been up since 9. You know what I mean? It's not a weird hour to get up. It's just a normal work hour. But you know what I mean? Like it's been 12 hours, 11 hours, and 45 minutes. You know what I mean? But you know what I'm saying? So just something to be aware of. It is difficult. It is something that you kind of like fall into this rhythm of like just constantly just painting, or just doing whatever. But it really is difficult, especially because I think something that happens. So I'm ranting, but something that happens a lot is we get into this zone of like, oh, I need to get better because the people around me are getting better, right? And I would say that's pretty valid. That's not that crazy of an idea, because people are getting better, right? Unfortunately, or fortunately and unfortunately. Unfortunately for them, unfortunately for you, right? And so, what are you gonna do? You have to get better, right? You want to catch up, or you want to do this thing, and you decide on what that means to you, right? There's part of me is like, oh, you don't need to do that, but also, I mean, that's your choice at the end of the day. But something to realize though, for students, for anybody that is not currently working, is that the professional work day is 8 hours, right? So, 9 to 5, 10 to 6, whatever it is. It's an 8-hour day. So they're doing art for 8 hours a day. And so they're getting better 8 hours a day faster than you are, right? More than you are if you're doing 0. And they're already ahead of you because they're professionals. They're at a certain skill level. And so as a student, doing 4 hours is really, that's why I was saying earlier, very minimum, very like not really even where you should be, just because, if you need to catch up to the professionals, you need to get to the level, to a high performing person, because, you don't want to just get the job, you want to keep the job, right? And something that, everybody, I guess, has a hard time realizing whenever you start is the hard part isn't really getting a job. It's keeping the job. It's getting the next job consistently. That's the hard part. And that's kind of where you want to be, you kind of want to try and, do what you need to do to kind of get to that scenario, right? And stopping at 8 hours while still achieving that is possible, right? You just got to figure out what that means. You know what I'm saying? So,
Hey Kenny, Misha asked in Discord,
oh yeah,
do you find yourself productive for those 4 hours, or out of all of the 8?
Here.
Okay.
Thanks, Alex. I also work in the industry, and usually I find myself working for 4 hours and then other 4 just digging around. Usually, I don't know. But then when the deadline comes in, then you pull out like 8, 12-hour work days. Maybe in studio work it's a little bit different, but I do a lot of commercials and mainly color scripting. And then I find myself only being productive for those 4 hours a day. Then the other 4, it's like, noise. And then I think that, I don't know. You find yourself productive for all 8 hours every day, all day, 5 days a week?
I mean, of course not, right? Of course, like, this is, I don't clock into work and I'm like working for straight 8 hours, right? But getting better at art or practicing, for example, right, isn't just painting, right? You know what I mean? And so that 8 hours, I'm surrounded by art. Even though I might be in a 2-hour meeting, right, where I didn't do work for 2 hours, but I'm talking about design language, I'm talking about form language, I'm talking about story, this and that. You know what I mean? Like I am surrounded by art, and I am communicating with my, leads or whoever about these ideas. So even though I'm not moving my hand, painting for 8 hours, it doesn't mean I'm not getting better at it, because something that happens, especially for those at higher levels or those that are working, is, you'll start finding that getting better at art doesn't actually necessarily mean getting better at painting, right? Because when you're a student, you need to get to the painting ability that's expected of you, right? Which is just,
you need to get the hours.
Exactly, right? But as a professional, most professionals can paint adequately, right? We're not all the same level, but you can paint you can paint enough, right? If I asked you to paint a castle, like design a castle, you could do one. It might not be Craig Mullen's level, right? But it is adequate enough to get you the design approval or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so now your job probably shifts from painting better to thinking better, right? And that happens 8 hours a day, right? Because you're just surrounded by people. There's water breaks, there's lunch, there's whatever, but on average, right? We're like,
I was just curious because I know people who are like crazy 8 hours a day type of like super high achievers, but then like for me sometimes I just need to go for a walk because a color script is like 45 frames that you have to do in like 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And then you just have to think about it, not paint. And it's like with Beethoven, I think he had like a music composition he had to write for somebody. And then the day before they said, do you have it? He's like, yep, I have it. Where is it? Well, all I have to do is just write it down. So for me, it's like with color scripts, right? You have to think about everything. And maybe you're not painting, but it's hard thing because everyone is painting around. You feel you're unproductive, but then for me, it's like thinking more. Like 80% is thinking, 20% is painting.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't technically do illusion of productivity, right? Just
Yeah.
pretend that you're putting brushstrokes on, but most of the time they're useless if they don't fit the story. Thank you. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, totally, dude. And I think I was working in a studio before. And I had this corner desk, and I would just like kind of put my legs up and just, like I'd be watching anime like half the day, just being real, right? But one of my other coworkers, he was like grinding hard. He was like putting down the hours. He was like, he'd come up with like, twice as many thumbnails as me or whatever, right? And I was lead at the time, and I was just kind of like just doing my thing. I was very comfortable painting and doing thumbnails. It wasn't difficult, you know what I'm saying? And so I would come in with like, less work or, not as many, right? But what happens is it doesn't really matter if none of your thumbnails hit, right? And so he's like cranking hard for like 8 hours, and I'm thinking through it. I'm just I'm just kind of figuring, I'm just scrolling on the internet, just looking at inspiration, doing whatever. And that's something where it's like, as for everybody, I'm not telling you specifically, but for everybody that is watching, right? Like whenever you're a student, the bar usually is like, you know, whenever you're like trying to, you know, I guess compete in a school setting, it's usually numbers. It's like, hey, you did 100, I did 200, right? Cool, man. I did amazing. Then that's toxic to begin with, but we're not talking about that right now. But it is something where, you know, when you get into the professional setting, you could lose to somebody that, not lose, but you know, the design can be approved by somebody that only did one thumbnail because that design was on point, right? And doing many doesn't really change anything, right? If you're not thinking through, if you're not understanding the prompt, if you're not doing what, you know, needs to happen, doesn't matter how many you do, you know? So just like things to think about. It's a funny dynamic. Things change so much from when you kind of start in a student setting to being professional. I think most of the professionals that are listening or that are here, or even the ones you talk to, they'll attest to that, where it's like the student setting is very different. It kind of feels like, I don't know, it feels like the Wild West, to be honest. Things are like just a little odd sometimes, but in a professional setting, things are very different. The focus is very different, and you kind of have to be like aware of that, you know? So cool. But yeah, great input, man. Thanks for thanks for saying that. Let's see. Oh, Kylo Legend says, what about for those that work 9 to 5? Would 2 hours be okay? You know, this is in regards to like how many hours you should be working, and if you have like, let's say like a non artist art job. I'm assuming that's what you mean. Shit, even for people with art jobs, right? To be honest, right, I would say that's not enough, right? Because the issue is, you know, you run into the problem of, you know, you're having to compete with people that do this all day, you know, like, you know, full-time students essentially, right? And the thing is, right, the most important thing is do what you can. If you can only do 2 hours, that's what you have. That's what you have to work with. Make those 2 hours effective, right? Do what you can, you know, study effectively, ask for feedback as much as possible, because you can get there faster with less work, right? But this, you know, but just understand that a lot of students have 8 hours a day. They have all day to do these things. And whenever you go for a portfolio review, you know, that the fact that you are working somewhere doesn't really come into play. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks that you have to, or, you know, I mean, we have to provide for our families, this and that, whatever, right? There's situations that you got to do, but that doesn't actually show up in a portfolio review. The fact is your work what we need, or is it not what we need? And, you know, it's, if you are struggling, if you're getting to this point to where, you know, I guess you're trying to figure out like how to get better and stuff, you know, do what you can first and foremost. If you can do more, you know, you absolutely should be. But if you can't, you know, there's really no debate, right? Because if you can't do more than 2 hours, then that's it. Just max out at 2 hours, you know. But it's not that it's impossible. It just takes a little bit longer. It's a time thing. It's a numbers thing. You have to kind of get through the problems. You have to stumble upon the answer oftentimes, and usually numbers kind of helps you get there. But being more effective about what you study can also get you there a little bit quicker too. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those scenarios, right? But the thing is too, like, you'd be surprised how often that happens to normal artists too, or not normal artists, but just entertainment designers as well. Like, where they finally start working at whatever studio that they've been wanting to work at, but then it's just like, oh, but I don't have time for a personal project, and everything I'm doing is not really what I want to show, because it's turnarounds, it's emojis, it's whatever, right? And you kind of, now they have to work also another 8 hours after they finish working their normal studio job. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's do the best you can and just be effective with it. Know why you're doing something. Never just sit down and start scribbling, right? Just because you're putting marks on a page doesn't mean you're actually moving anywhere. Be effective. Look at your skill set, and look at the skill set that you want, and be honest. Hey, I can't actually design vehicles, but I want to work for, you know, a vehicle design company. I can't actually draw faces, and I want to be a character designer at Riot. right? You just tackle those issues 2 hours at a time, you know? Yeah. Hi, Audrey. Can't stay for long, but thought I'd stop by. Yeah, appreciate you stopping by. Excited to see the homework, Audrey. She's in my style and mood class. So. All right.
Don't get too excited. I started it right after class, and I am gonna turn it in. I am, but I'm so nervous because photo bashing is truly my least favorite at this point. I think that watching you do it and watching other people do it, I've watched videos, make it look so easy, but I mean, and I truly think it really just reflects the way I need to like grow in my mind, weirdly enough, because when I try to do it, like my brain thinks more like a painter, like filling in color and then doing detail. So trying to take pieces of photos to create what I want and actually make it look good. And I mean, the magic you performed at the end, like I'm not saying it didn't look good up until the end, but it's like it was a real, you know, trust the process from start to finish. But then it was like we had 10 minutes left of class, Kenny, and I was like like this is better than anything I could do. But then in that 10 minutes you like literally performed magic. And on the like your example, and so I was just kind of like, that's where I think I got really lost. And I was like, if anything, what I would show is going to be closer, but this is me, you know, hopeful, wishful thinking, closer to like, you know, the first part of what you had where like,
yeah,
it just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough, right? I think just so you know, right? Or I guess for anybody in my style and mood class, like watching, I mean, I know this isn't style and mood class lecture, but it is something where it does take some practice, right? And the whole point of that class for everybody, right? For those of you that are, I'm not trying to sell my class, but you know, something where whenever we are, I guess, put in a studio setting, right? You kind of want to be able to do at least not. You don't have to do all of it. There for everybody, there's gonna be a week that you're just not as good at. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because I cover photo bashing all the way down to like Ivan Earl, like stylized, right? Like the spectrum. And the issue that you kind of find is, you know, some people just aren't adapted to doing photo real. Some people aren't really good at stylized, and you know, it's just something that happens, right? But just kind of, you want to practice the ideas. You want to kind of understand like what the general kind of, I guess, moves are. That way, whenever you kind of start working on your own thing, you can kind of adapt differently. You know what I mean? Every project that you work on is going to be different. It's going to be a different style, right? Even within Disney itself, right? There's the reason Audrey wants to work at Disney. So, you know, they have different styles. It's not 100% different, but there are slight changes, and you want to be able to adapt to those, because if you can't, you know, it's harder to stay employed, right? But if you can, it makes you more employable, and you're able to, you know, kind of do things just more freely. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, so, you know, I'm glad you liked it. That demo was kind of scary too, though. I was like, dude, is this gonna be okay? But shit, that's how I feel about this demo right now.
I want to rewatch it to re-see like how you kind of started, because I've gotten my piece to the point where I could probably start the photo bashing now, but I'm like afraid to, so I like want to go back to when you started doing it. I've selected a bunch of photos. I don't anyways, but oh, something was on my mind. I was like, something that when you were talking about before, like, you know, working, even if you're working like an art job, but like still needing to work on, you know, portfolio pieces on the side. I don't know if this is like totally wishful thinking, but there are quite a few artists that like I follow, I look up to. I love their work, not just their work, but their career trajectory is like kind of like my goals almost. And if you look up their portfolios, because often they have website portfolios that you can just go to, I mean, their entire portfolio is just filled with work projects. Some of them still have personal projects that they do, but I feel like almost just like where I would like to be one day, because understandably, having to work 8 or more hours, especially as an artist, and then get off of work and do more art is so incredibly taxing.
Yeah.
And I know this issue we've like run into the ground, how many times we've spoken about just like, yeah, like, is it ethical, is it not, but it's like kind of what you have to do, toxic, but but you have to like, like that. But I feel like being able to be in a position in my career where I love, my work projects so much, and that is just the type of work I would want to fill my portfolio with anyway, that it just kind of like my work, new jobs kind of fill my portfolio for me. I feel like would be the most ideal. Not that I don't want to continue growing or continue like learning, but I mean, we've also spoken about this before. I really struggle with, but very much value my personal life and having the relationships with family and with other people like in my life. That's very important to me. And so
yeah, I mean, that's the dream, right? That's the ideal. And something that, is that, everybody should know, right? Is that's how it should be, right? That's how this industry should work, where it's like, oh yeah, you worked 8 hours a day at a job, and then you're able to show work that you can, get to, right? But the thing is, it is really hard to do that. Like, ridiculously hard. Like, I can't even explain how hard that is, right? To be able to just work and then get by with just that, right? Because the thing is, you got to get to that point. That's not something that just happens. You have to get there. Unfortunately, you have to get there, right? Because you have to have the job that you're proud of, right? That you're like, oh, that's really cool. Like, you don't want to be working. You're like, you work at, I don't know, some emoji company, or you work at some company that doesn't really do art in a entertainment design space, but they still do art, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's not 100% exactly what you want to do, but it pays and it gets food on the table, right? And even if you were able to show that work, it's like, do you even want to? You know what I mean? And so that's pretty common. That's a very real scenario for, I would say, most people, actually. And it's very rare to find people that, work at that dream studio they work at and are able to release work and show things and be proud of it. You know what I mean? Not that it doesn't happen, but it does take a second to get there. And so now it really does come down to, well, how do we get there now? And unfortunately, that usually does mean like, hey, I need to kind of keep doing work, because the work that you're doing isn't really quite exactly where you want to be. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm doing a bunch of emojis, but I want to do keyframe art, or I want to work in animation, but I'm currently in mobile games, or whatever it is, right? And there's nothing wrong with those spaces, but if it's not where you want to be, that's the issue, right? And so now, how do you get that work? How do you show that work? It's hard. It's hard as hell. Even I have that problem, right? Especially as a concept artist, or somebody that's in like early production, right? Is that a lot of projects get canceled. Like, you would be surprised how many projects actually just get canned, and there's nothing you can do about it. And they'll be like, oh, it's not canceled, it's shelved or whatever. So you can't show anything, right? You're stuck with, you can't show any of that work. Even if it might be like something amazing that you really are proud of, you're unable to do anything with that, right? And that's an issue. It's not, I think a lot of those artists that we kind of idolize and really want to kind of share their trajectory pattern, right? I think they experienced it too. I think you'd be surprised where like, oh yeah, there's jobs that they just don't talk about, right? They're like, oh yeah, I worked at this one place when I first started, and it was just kind of that, but they had to do some work to kind of get to where they're at, and that's, you know, unfortunately that's the case, right? It's hard for people to hire you if you don't have the work to kind of show for it, and you have to show that work, you know. So
You totally reminded me when you were talking about like projects being released or not released, but it was pretty cool because all the work that I did do for the mobile game studio is now published. So
nice.
Just like the puzzle pack got published a long time ago actually, but the game, which I was, you know, what you see in the game is like not, you know, my work. It's the work of like a 3D modeler and whatnot. But the levels that I got to help on, they're all published now, which I think is cool. I've been like playing through the game to try to get to my levels, but it takes a while to like get through each one. So
nice. Yeah, I mean that's the good news though, right? You're able to show that at the very least, because it was released, and you know, because I have my portfolio, like it's like I would say like 10% of what I've actually done, right? Just because I can't show it. The project got, you know, I literally had a project canned on me a couple months ago. You know what I mean? Like they're just like, oh yeah, you know, the work you did was beautiful, but you know, we just couldn't, we can't keep going because of A, B, and C reason. And it happens, you know, and I can't show that. Because they're like, oh, but we're gonna hold on to it and hopefully we can do something with it. So you can't show anything quite yet, you know, which is, it is what it is. But I mean, that's the reality of our field, you know. So, all right.
There's a rule with freelance: when there's work, there's lots of work. When there's no work, there's even more work. Because you got to publish stuff to your portfolio. And honestly, I don't even publish client stuff because you don't. Well, sometimes like they're in forever pitch phase. At least in animation, that's where I'm in. And usually your personal work is what gets you hired for the most part. And then maybe 5 years, 6 years later, you get like 20, 50 projects under your belt, and then you can publish them as your own. But from the experience, yeah, usually like 4 to 5 projects that I'm really proud of. I can't really show to anybody because they're in forever pitch, because animation, to get something greenlit, especially in early pre-production, this stuff can take years, decades sometimes.
That's exactly it, man. It's like, and then even then, right? Like let's say it did get pitched, right? Let's say like, you know, you pitched the work like 10 years ago, and then you're like 10 years better. You know what I mean? Like you can't even show it anyway. And it's like, oh dude.
Yeah.
So
you don't even want to show it anyway. It's like I always tell my students that it's like you can only control one thing. It's your personal IPs and personal work. And usually if you look at the most successful people, they have a personal IP that they always publish to the art station, and they get hired for their personal artistic voice, not for the jobs they've done.
Yeah.
And I think it's the best way to get freelance. Like they want you because of your artistic voice, not because you worked on other projects.
Yeah.
That's why I don't publish client work on my portfolio. Simply I'm lazy, but that's one of the reasons. But yeah. For the exact same reason, because like a project was done like 2 to 3 years ago, you're like, I don't want to show those color scripts anymore.
Yeah.
And the ones that you want to show, usually you can't.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, it's a weird balance that you like. I tell a lot of my students, like, when you start working, don't let off the gas. Just 1 more year, 2 more years, 3 more years. You know, just keep making paintings, because the stuff that you want to show, you're not gonna be able to show it, and the stuff that you can show, you don't want to show it, just because, you know, it's just not good anymore, or you're that much better because of it. And it's when you get out of that job, right? Whenever, you know, whether the project's over or you get let go or whatever happens, you know, you're technically still a student again, because you can't show any new work, so you're relying on the same portfolio that you got in with, you know, couple of years ago or whatever it was, and that's not a fun place to be, you know. So
or make friends with directors. If you're gonna have 3 directors friends, you can have work for life, I think.
Yeah,
but in my opinion, if you have one good director who has a really good career trajectory, and you fit well and you make their life easier, they will basically drag you to every production. At least in, like, I work in commercials. like a lots of freelance directors who do like freelance directing, not in one studio but in different projects. And usually they have like a core team they drag around on freelance contract basis. So if you have one good director friend or an agent, get an agent. Art agents are awesome.
That
you don't have to fill out paperwork and they just get your jobs.
I want to point out something too that you just said. For everybody that might have missed it, it was really quick. He said, if you make their life better, right? And just something to understand is that really is the key. Like if you make their life better, if you're somebody that when they give you work or whatever, like they hand you an assignment and they just, then they just like don't even think about it until it's turned in. Dude, I swear to you, they will hunt you down and they'll be like, get this person again because this person, made it possible, did the thing or whatever. Versus if you're like an amazing artist and you're an ass to work with, like you just sucked. They were like, yeah, he was really good, but it just wasn't a pleasure to work with you because your files are all messed up or, like your layering was bad or your files are too small, like things like that. It's like, that's how you don't get called back, and it sounds funny, but really it's a working relationship. You want to work with people like for those that have worked in retail, it's like when you work at a store and you're the closing shift, it's like if you're somebody that opens the next day or you've been someone, that, hey, I need to clean everything up because this person in the morning is going to just be pissed and it sucks for them. That's how you become a good employee where you're like, screw it, they'll take care of it. Yeah, you're the asshole. You probably need to figure that out. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. We think about our industry as this completely unique experience in the world of, jobs. But at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. We're just employees that do a task. And if our boss likes our work and we're good to work with, they'll hire you again, Obviously getting to the skill part, that's the hard part, right? But getting jobs over and over again usually doesn't come from your skills as much, right? It starts becoming your personality, your work ethic, your just agreeability. It was funny. So I was at Netflix and I kept getting this statement from my team. Every time we met up and we always say goodbye and stuff like that, we're like, it's very cordial. It's very very sweet. Right. And then I was like, oh, Kenny, it was great to work with you. Every time that we had a task, you just said, yes, you just did it and you handled it and it came back great. Like, I'm not making this up. They said that. And it sounds funny because you're like, if someone gives you a task, you just handle it. Right. Like that's why wouldn't you do that? Why isn't that the thing? But apparently that's not, and then, like talking with some of my leads or talking to some of the other artists, like they straight up said like, oh, I don't want to do that assignment or I don't want to do this thing. And it's like, that's an odd way to pursue your career. But people do it. You know what I mean?
That's totally. Yeah, you're working there. I wouldn't even consider it a choice.
Yeah, they tell you like, hey, can we get this done? And you just say yes. Yes, I can. You know what I mean? Like I never thought there was an option, but apparently people do. And, I mean, that's their loss at the end of the day, but it really is that easy. It's like, just be someone that's fun to work with, right? Once you get the job, right? Getting the job, but you got to jump through some hoops, but once you're there.
And also being autonomous, right? Because if our director can give you a task and then forget about you and then be like, oh yeah, I have a call with this guy and everything is on point as usual, then you're gold. Because directors, they don't want to, right? Well, honestly, directors should direct you, but they don't want to direct. They actually love artists who just, you give them a task and they will come up with all the solutions, even the problems and the direction the director could come up with. So your job is kind of to be a mind reader to the director. And if you are really good at mind reading the director's thoughts, man. Yeah. Also that sentence, I'm here to make your life easier. That's what I tell my students to tell on the calls when they get a job. And actually 2 or 3 people came back and they said, when I said that sentence, I got the job instantly. Our directors love that sentence. I'm here to make your life easier.
Yeah, because like but they're overworked like hell. Like we always, it's funny because when I first started, it was like, you don't really know what an art director does. You know, they give you feedback, you know that they, do their thing. But then after a while, you start seeing like, oh, that he kind of blew me off really quickly because he has a fire that he's putting out, and I just came at a weird point or whatever it is. And like when you start realizing that, oh, the art director, they don't just handle concept artists, they don't just handle visitive artists, they handle the modeling team, the VFX team, the story team, the previs, they handle the clients, they handle everything. It's not just like, because as a concept artist or a visitive artist, I just interact with them on that one thing, like, hey, can you look at my painting, right? And it's like, is that their job? No, that's part of it, And when you're somebody that just handles it and they don't have to think, they don't have to like, they just approve, they look at your work. Or if there's an emergency and they're like, hey, we need someone to just do this because it's burning, the house is on fire and I need someone to put it out. You become such a valuable employee. It's just little things like that where you can problem solve, you can do all those things, and it really does make a big difference. And it's whenever I talk to like some of my students, it's always like, art is a skill that's important to have. It's absolutely, but it's not the only thing that you need to be good at, right? You have to be good at other things. You have to be able to adapt and understand what the problem is. Because some people they'll take the request, like, oh, hey, can you do a painting for this? Like, sure, cool, but they don't understand why they're doing it. Then you end up in situations where you have a painting that's due, and then you miss the point of the assignment because not every painting is the same, right? But not every painting is done with the same intention, and that's where you run into issues. That's when you run into like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, and then there's that, you're the fire now. You know what I mean? You're the fire that the art director is putting out, and it's shitty. It sucks, but you learn. I've done that plenty.
And
of
then
times.
you pull a null nighter because you didn't understand the assignments.
Yeah, exactly.
I once did 20 frames of color keys, and then it turned out that it was all nighttime. No, it was all daytime, and I painted everything nighttime. I wish it was the other way around because it's easier to turn day into night.
Yeah.
With the multiply layer. But this was different.
No, man, it's always the hardest one. It's always like, because if it was easy, you would have been like, oh yeah, cool, I'll just do it real quick. Right. Cool, guys. Well, how's it going? Does anybody else have any other questions, statements, concerns? I can bring up things, but it is nice whenever there's like questions that are coming from like a real person. Like it's cool because, we can talk about things that are, I guess, very, things that we can look out for. But I think it's when there's a real problem, it really does, like somebody's like actually experiencing something. So if you ever, if you want to talk about it, or if you have something concerns, or even just little things, just ask. Definitely. So that's why we're here. We're here for you. Boom. All right. Cool. So I'm just kind of color picking from my other painting, right? Because I already figured it out. I already have what I needed. I just needed to kind of change the composition, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking parts, bits and pieces from my initial painting. Oops, where's it at? Oh, there it is. From my initial painting, and just throwing it in, just being like, I already painted it once. Why do it again? And then all of a sudden you're like, dude, you painted all those things in an hour, in an hour and a half of a live stream, and then you look them dead in the eyes and you go, yes. That's why they pay me the big bucks. So. Yeah, because the thing is, right, the thing to understand, like, when I'm doing this, it is something where it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter quite yet. Like, we'll fix it. We'll make it look cool. As long as it's like kind of approaching what a good painting is kind of supposed to be. You know what I mean? It gets pretty easy to kind of figure all these things out. But I just need placeholders. I just need something that's like, oh, that's what this, it's not so flat over there. It's not a thing. And if you, distort things, if you flip things horizontal, if you do what you need to do to it to make it look good, chances are they won't notice. I don't think anybody's ever called me out and was like, hey, that's the same exact cloud. But if you really looked, you would see it. You'd be like, oh, this guy's a dirty cheater. He's just ripping off his own paintings. And it's like, yeah, that's what I do. Let's see, what else can I take? Oops. I should save this before I lose it. My God.
Kenny, I'm not sure if you saw my comment, but I have to go.
Peace. Later. Thanks for stopping by. Let's go. What else do we need? What else do we have here? We need some God rays. I need some lighting adjustments, but I'll do that in a second. Let me pillage my other paintings and see what happens. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's dumb. Doesn't match. Let's see. Oh, I need some clouds. Oh, so what I've been doing, I don't think I explained it too much, but I have an asset sheet, right? We talked about this. The file name's even Zen Garden, right? This is for those that know from my first live stream sessions last year. You know, I was just taking pieces. These clouds are from the first week's painting, but these pieces I designed on stream and then I used them in in my painting, and I made the Zen Garden paintings and some of the other windmill stuff, right? And so what I do is if I'm painting in the same style, if I'm doing something right, just save the piece, right? I have them here. I have the same cloud that I spent, a good maybe 30, 45 minutes painting this cloud the first time. But the thing is, I'm not doing that again. So all I do is I just take this, I grab it, I drag it over, and you don't have to keep doing that, right? So just as a tip for those that are like, struggling like to figure out speed and this and that, just recycle things, right? Especially if you've already done it in the same series of paintings, right? Obviously, some of the thumbs are from, or some of the assets are from last stream and stuff, but I'm using the cloud from my first episode, right? That we kind of talked about, and I'll adjust it. I'll get it to where it needs to be. But the whole point is it gets us there, 50, 60, 70, 80% faster, and it doesn't really matter what the cloud looks like right now because, I'll fix it. I'll make it look good, but it's just like, I just need something to kind of get me in the right space first, right? So it's on my second monitor if you're not seeing it. Kyle Legend says, how did you color this so fast? I just took pieces from my other painting, dude. I already had a cliffside that was, like a waterfall, and I just had those shapes. They were black and white, but I just kind of started dropping those pieces in, and then after that, you just have to color the unique pieces, right? Because the bird, I took a silhouette, or I took the wing silhouette from something else, and then I had the deers already. We'll fix that in a second. The cliffside I had from that not Blastoise painting. The clouds I have, and the water I just colored blue. So it's a lot of cheating. Just being real with you. And then so something's happening. This cloud doesn't work in this perspective. This cloud is supposed to be this is like a sideways, because the cloud's going like left and right, really, right? But the cloud that I'm about to clip it into is going in the Z depth, so it doesn't work that way. So just remember, you're gonna have to paint a little bit, but it gets you kind of there. You know what I mean? So all I'm gonna do is something like that. I'm gonna duplicate it again. Oops. Clip it in. Put it on something like this. I'll probably distort that. Something like this. You'll see what I'm doing in a second. It's like magic. I promise. Oops. Colorize that. There you go. So I just need a bottom plane, right? The cloud needs a Z depth plane to make it feel like it's in perspective. So just get kind of there, you know what I mean? And then we sack up and we paint it. But we don't have to paint from scratch. That's the whole idea, right? Oopsies. Boom. And you can take the same cloud again, boom, flip it horizontal, boom. Put this, cover up some of those seam lines that you don't like. Someone's like, oh, there's some weird spots kind of happening, right? Because I distorted it in a weird perspective or whatever. And then just start masking it out. Clip that in, there it is. So I worked as a, I mean, I did a bunch of things, but whenever I was at Netflix, I was specifically a color key artist, or color key / VizDev matte painting and stuff like that. And what I did was, especially like when we have the same location, like this is kind of where a lot of this kind of developed. I mean, I was doing it already, but really kind of like maximized whenever I was doing that stuff, is because we had assets that I was already, I guess, already made for the matte painting or the VizDev piece or whatever it was, right? And then from there, I would just take that same matte painting piece, the cliffside that's supposed to be consistent in the story anyway, and all I did was just straight up just drop it in. And then so my color keys started looking like higher quality than they probably should have, but then I just had to paint it down. I just had to, like, you know, just get rid of detail, right? Which is a lot easier than painting detail up, right? Or, you know, trying to get in the right spot. So, you know, reuse things. Definitely, like, if you're saving production money, they don't care how you do it. They don't care. If you're, like, you know, figuring out problems quickly and effectively, because this then frees me up to go, like, do something else, right? It just makes it so much easier. And they're like, dude, that's amazing. And then, you know, you said, yeah, man, so give me a raise. Questions. Did you struggle with workflow when you were starting working, or did you figure that out before getting? Oh yeah, so I figured this out during work, probably late too at that. So workflow is something that is very, like, I guess it's an easy, interesting word to say, but workflow only develops because you have a particular, I don't know, I guess, like, process that needs to happen, right? Like when you're working for clients, you know, there's certain things that happen in production where, like, oh, we need revisions, or, oh, hey, can you change the time of day, or, you know, things like that. And so that workflow develops because of the clients that you work with, right? So I worked with clients that needed a lot of revisions, or, you know, I mean, every client needs a lot of revisions, but it is something where you know, because I just hate going back and repainting things over and over again, I like to leave things separate. And because of that, you know, I started developing this process for myself that was very effective and dynamic, right? And when I'm doing studies and stuff, I'll keep it in one layer or whatever it is, or, like, not effectively separate layers, right? But when I'm working for clients, or especially, like, in a setting like this, I will always have my layers, like, as perfect as possible, because sometimes they're like, hey, we really don't like that cloud in the back. And instead of painting it out, I just go, cool, man, what else do you want? You know? And then you know, just kind of hang out for the rest of the day, because that should have taken you, you know, a couple hours or whatever it was, but you were pretty good and you thought ahead, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, so pretty simple. It just takes some time. It's something that, it develops after you kind of go through some clients that you're like, oh, I wish I kept that separate, or I wish I did this thing or that thing or whatever, you know? So another question I got, so I just noticed your ArtStation is empty. Did you delete your works, and why? Yes, I did. You know, ArtStation has some shady practices, to say the least. It's just a personal thing. I have a website. I have my Instagram and stuff like that. And if I ever need to, maybe I will. But I think at the moment I'm just kind of like, I don't think I need to be paying for it. And because I was paying for a pro membership before, and then now it's kind of like, I just at this point I'm like, do I even need to have it? Because everyone they'll find you if they're something that happens. Like if you're good, not that I am, but I'm saying if they want you, right, they'll find you. And that's kind of where it's up to you. Do I recommend that for anybody? Hell no. Don't. If you are somebody that is trying to find work or whatever, yes, make an art station. I mean, if you're okay with it, do whatever you want. But what I say is, just do it, right? Because you need to find work. Your ideals, your morals, stuff like that. You need to feed your family first and foremost, or get a footing in the industry. So you do whatever you need to do. But I think for me, I just don't feel like I need to have one. So because I have other ways for people to find me. So maybe that might change in the future. Who knows? But I think for now, I'm just doing my thing. So yeah, good question. Cool. 33? Dude, we got 30 minutes left? Bro. What else we got here? Let's see. Let's grab some bushes, right? Let's put that, where am I putting this? Here? Oh, where's the deer at? This is gonna go behind the branch. So this is kind of where like your layering really does become important. So this is deer, which needs to be in front of the branch, which needs to be in front of this thing, which is in front of the rocks. Cool. Rocks copy. That's rocks copy. This is rocks. This needs to be in front. So I'm just kind of rearranging some things. As I was moving, I was just kind of moving a little quickly. So like things are kind of getting out of hand. Things were kind of getting out of out of where they needed to be. So now I'm just trying to figure that out real quick. Probably light that guy just a bit. There we go. Oops. Dang, Discord's quiet. What's up, guys? You guys have any statements, comments, questions? Nothing?
How vast is your asset library?
Not very. It like, I mean, I have like maybe 3 or 4 pages of like in terms of like this stuff, right? Like this painting, because you can only use it per project. So like per project, I'll have 1 or 2, depending on like the topic. This one happens to be from because I can't do my professional ones on Livestream, right? For reasons, and so this is just what I used for last time. I have the other one as well, but I didn't need it because this is all nature. And so, it doesn't get that big because I'll change it per project, right? Every new project I'll go to, I just start a new one. Sometimes I'll go back and grab it, but not always. Yes, Pius knows how it goes. Kenny painted everything here from scratch, dude. You're damn right, dude. And then, and the cool part is like, this is like a very clean way of doing it, but like, because I don't have much and I just took the 3 thumbnails that I had, or the 4, and I just kind of combined them like we were talking about, and we're kind of getting some, it's still trash right now. Just, it's not even close to where I wanted to be, but it's getting better. It's like, oh, that would kind of work if it does clean up, if that painting did work better, right? You know what I mean? Like with some time, this is going to get to a good spot. And so, we'll get there. But the whole idea is like, once I have other paintings, once you start seeing me like finalize things, it just ramps up from there, right? It's like, I have 1 painting now, right? Or I guess 4 thumbnails now. So it can only get to the quality that my thumbnail's at, right? It can't really exceed the quality because the pieces that you're using aren't really that high quality quite yet. But as I finish paintings, you'll start seeing this ramp up a lot faster. I think like last last stream, I think I did a painting like with like another painting, and I finished it before. Like I think I finished both that same day or that same stream. So it's a really fun process. Bro, and they're like, dude, look at all those rocks, look at all that detail.
Also, I'm curious, how many color keyframes did you do a day? What do you think is the industry standard for color scripting?
Man, I don't even know. I mean, you've probably done more than I have from the sounds of it. The way I went about it, I had, I guess for per scene when I was at Netflix, we had about, because every artist would get a scene, we had about like 5 to 10 roughly, right? And I'd probably do all of them, at least a rough first pass, in about a day, 2 days, right? Get all the colors down and get eyes on it, right? It's not done, but I needed to put it in front of my production designer / art directors to be like, hey, this is what I was thinking, or this is what I have. What do you think? So that took about a day and a half, 2 days. Industry standard, I don't know if I'm experienced enough to say that, but that's what I did.
Yeah, I've been doing only color keys for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, or I was just curious because I'm always thinking like, am I like what other color keys artists do? And like a consensus is like 3 to 5 frames a day. Yeah. Depending on complexity. Sometimes it's 2. If it's a big shot, sometimes it's 1 frame a day. But usually you try to do 2.5.
Yeah, if it's like that freak of nature shot, right, where it's like a wide shot of a huge thing and this complexity and this and that, yeah, that takes a second. But you know, average shots, like they're usually like close up / medium shots. Those don't take too long, you know.
You know, those usually like take an hour and a half maximum, depending on how many characters in there.
It usually takes me longer to chop up the painting, because what I'll do is I'll take the storyboard from you know, like the storyboard artist, whatever they gave me to kind of color, and I'll spend, you know, maybe like 2 or 3 hours chopping up all of them. That way they're in a decent spot, and then from there it's like, you know, just takes a couple hours to get that first coat of paint on. And I'm not doing like color variations. Like it's not as far as this painting. Not that this painting's that far, but I wouldn't take them this far yet. And then I would get approval first, and then I'll kind of move into all the other stuff. So.
Cool, thanks, man.
Yeah,
So very, very nice thing you're doing, and I finally have some things to listen to while I work. So
nice.
Thanks a lot. You're doing a huge service to the community. All right, I gotta jump. I have an early morning call.
Dude, thanks
a lot.
Thanks for hanging out, man. Yeah, you know. Peace. All right. Pi says, do background artists do background artists for animation have asset sheets? I think that's a personal thing. I think that's I think some people do, probably. I know like an artist that I worked with, he was a background artist, and yeah, he had some things that he used, but if the thing is like the term background artist, right, is, I guess it just depends on what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because you could be a background artist like that does paintings, that like physically paints things, which you probably can't. Or I mean, you have assets that maybe production gave you, kind of thing, but not like this, because they're not designing out their shots as much, right? Because they're painting, they're like fully painting the thing. But then there's like background viz dev artists like me, for example, where I will design a background, or I'll create a space that is from scratch, or at the very least, you know, has a board, just has a storyboard to it, which is very loose. So I have asset sheets, but I guess not everyone works that way. It just depends who you're working with, you know. I make it for myself, and then I actually give it to my other artists as well. So like, if I'm, you know, when I'm working, you know, with other people, I'll be like, oh, hey, I did that keyframe, or I did that viz dev piece, and you're doing the color key. So here's the assets that I used, and that way, you know, it just helps them, you know, get through it quicker. And also, I mean, your higher ability, you know, because they're like, oh yeah, Kenny was great to work with because he hooked me up with all these things. Yeah, you know, just remember that whenever I'm looking for a job. So yeah, basically. Pumpkinator. Yes, I want to do background painting, but I'm not sure where to start. What job involves? Yeah, so you know, it's very broad, and you have to understand, like, you have to know a couple things, right? You have to go like, okay, so what exactly am I doing? Because there's an environment designer, which kind of clumps into backgrounds, right? Because there's this idea like, oh, we do environments backgrounds, right? There's a viz dev artist, like, I guess, okay, hold up. Let's break this down further. If you want to go to games, if you want to go to animation, right? If you want to go to games, you know, there's a whole track there, there's a whole idea there. And then for animation, there's a couple different things where it's like, if you want to be a viz dev background designer, you're going to be doing backgrounds that you design from scratch. You're thinking through the space, you're creating a thing, whatever that is. If you are, let's say, a background artist specifically, you could just be doing line work that then gets handed off to a background painter. But you can also just receive line work and just paint that, or you could be doing both, right? It just depends on, you know, what that job is and what place you're working for. So, you know, I don't want to, it is hard to say exactly what that is, but usually what that entails, like when you think about a background painter, right, a background designer, is somebody that creates environments, and there's usually a layout to think about, right? So layout artists aren't the same, by the way. There is a difference, but you know, you have to kind of understand how the space is laid out and what interactions kind of happen there. Like, let's say, for example, we're looking at looking at this scene. Let's say it was it's not a background, but you know what I mean? And so this section right here would be like the interaction point. So people need to walk back and forth. The animation happens there. So you have to be careful of, you know, what's bumping into what, or how far some of these lines go and stuff like that. That'll all be kind of planned out for you. They'll tell you that ahead of time. So I can't give you a solid answer just because it's a whole thing. But what I will say is you want to get good at environments at the very least, right? If you want to be a background painter, you do have to start getting better at painting environments. You know, start from plein air painting, start from designing your own spaces, right? Get good at drawing first and foremost. And that'll probably get you in a good spot. And then as you get better, you'll start seeing things and you'll start hearing what people need from you. You know what I'm saying? So it was a very non-answer. It was very like, it was very like, hey, this is like kind of it, but not really, right? But that's the whole thing. It depends on where you want to go, what you want to do, and you know what that project kind of entails at that time. You know what I mean? So. Cool. Dewey says, what is the next thing you are learning right now? Any new knowledge when it comes to art? Yeah, you know, I think for me, I'm like constantly trying to figure out like, how do I progress? How do I get better? Like, what's the next thing, right? I think a big thing for me is just learning how to think better. You know what I mean? Like a lot of it, like, you know, I need to get better at 3D. I need to get better at all these different tools and this and that. But at the end of the day, a lot of the different things that I need to work on come down to how to make something a little more engaging. How do I talk to higher level, I guess, individuals on a team, right? Like, how do you talk to producers? How do you talk to showrunners? How do you interact with these higher up individuals? Because, you know, we're trained and taught to work in a production setting, and we're talking to just artists, generally speaking. So it's like, oh, hey, you know, design, color theory, this and that, right? Things that we're very used to saying. But whenever you get to those higher levels, it really is like, well, they don't talk about those things because that's not what they do, right? They talk about, you know, other parts of production, whether it means their part or whether that means, you know, something else that that needs to be talked about, right? That they don't always do design work, design thinking. And so something that I really try to focus on is what is that language? What is that idea that kind of needs to be talked about? You know what I mean? Like, what other things am I missing in my, I guess, experience so I can talk to, let's say, modelers, so I can talk to, let's say, animators, right? Because if you want to move into a higher, I guess, position, right, in a production setting, you got to know how to talk to them because you're going to be probably guiding them, you know, and if you don't have any experience with that, it does make it difficult. Not impossible, but definitely difficult, you know? So. Oopsies. Where the hell? Do I need to clip this in here? There it is. Cool. All right. Pumpkinator says, are these skills same as VizDev artists? That's what you are, right? What? I'm not quite what you're saying. Not quite sure what you're saying there. You might want to just retype that. And yeah. Kylo says, what was your first task when you got a VizDev job? My first task, what was it? Oh, my first VizDev job was actually at Netflix. I was already working in a bunch of different productions at that point on like games and films and stuff. But VizDev specifically, I had not worked in until Netflix. That was back in 2020, I think. And my first job was to design this, not even design, it was like, I just needed to kind of do a VizDev painting of this bridge. It was like this bridge, it was like a snowy kind of thing. And they just had me paint that. And I had to figure out like the set dressing and all the nuance and details and stuff that went along with that. So nothing, it's not out yet, so I can't talk too much about it. But yeah, that was the first task. It was pretty simple, right? It was generally a pretty a pretty normal assignment. Very normal first assignment you'd probably get.
Hey, Kenny.
What's up, dude?
I had a question. If we're working on a portfolio for games, for trying to show like the best amount of skills possible or whatever, do you think it'd be good to prioritize, like for example, if doing this current portfolio project, like designing more spaces with like different types of things that you think you would need to do, say like one that has like a building, one with like some kind of vehicle, one with more like natural thing, and then working in gameplay elements? Or would they rather see like that you could take one location and like show production work for literally every part of it?
That's tough, right? There's like the answer of like either one. To be honest, either one, because showing that you can do the entire process and you know what you're doing, and that's the hard part. I think something that if you're not experienced in it, right, it can be very difficult to really know what that even means, right? Because like you're like, because I'm like, oh, you need to make something that a modeler knows how to use. You're like, you've never worked with a modeler, so I'm not saying you, but generally speaking, you've never worked with a modeler, so how would you even know that, right? And so it comes down to like, well, you can try your best and get feedback with it, and that's probably one of the better ways to do it. But they'll take either one, right? Because if you show the full production experience, great, that's awesome because you know how to do that. But your ability to find work might be hampered just because, oh, you did a vehicle, cool. Well, we need a character, and that might be something you could do, but you didn't show it. You know what I mean? And so it becomes difficult because now you only have a certain topic in your portfolio. I'm not saying to branch out and always to show everything possible, but there is a level of like, sometimes you want to kind of show that you can do a couple things, right? Maybe what you could do is in that vertical slice where it's like you have the keyframe and you kind of break down the whole thing from start to finish. Make sure that keyframe has everything that it needs to kind of show that you can do things. It doesn't need to be a different project. It just needs to show that the different aspects, from prop design to maybe a little bit of character design, environment design, right? Obviously have the focus. Like if you're an environment designer, 70% environments, but then like you have some other things to kind of give you opportunities elsewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. So just try and keep it, maybe strategize when making the keyframe to like, without being too heavy-handed, put like everything that you can, you know, to show that you can do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you want to be strategic because just like your keyframe right now, right? Where you have the dude, you have the bike, and then you have the city in the back. So you have buildings, characters, and vehicles already, and then, you know, some props already. And just be aware of that. So when you're showing it, you're like, okay, cool. Let me kind of give them a little bit of everything, you know, like in that one vertical slice. So you're kind of doing both at the same time. But it doesn't need to be like a full different project. It just kind of be conscious of it as you're kind of going, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Good question.
You think, Kenny, is it a bad idea to focus on character stuff when I'm just getting in? You know, like I still barely even have my foot in the door, but I don't think that I measure up on environments the same way as other people who naturally gravitate towards them. And it's not like my the thing that I like to do when I'm trying to learn stuff. I just find it harder, and it's more enjoyable to do characters. So I've been trying to lean into it over the last year or so.
Yeah.
Maybe try to lean on, like, you know, color comp with characters, character focus, keyframe comps, that sort of thing. It's where it still features some environment, but it's not like you're making these epic, vast architectural landscapes where you fought through all that nonsense, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, if you're somebody that gravitates towards, you know, certain topics, just do that, right? That's what what you want to do, right? Then do that, right? Because what I wouldn't want you to do, or what I wouldn't recommend for anybody to do, is gravitate towards the thing that you think is going to get you employed. It's not going to get you employed, I promise you. And if it does get you employed, you're not going to like it because you don't like doing it in the first place, right? And so if it's, you know, if you like characters, just lean into it. And you can do like environment heavy character work, if that makes sense, where it's like there's a character, it's mostly character focused, where the character doing their thing, but there is a decently detailed environment there. It's not that you can't do that, especially because if you have the skills to do so, you probably should, right? But, you know, I don't recommend trying to match what some of these other like high end, I guess, environment designers are doing, because they like doing shit like that, you know? And if you don't, then don't, you know, do what you want to do, but just understand it's like, you have to know who's going to hire you for that. You know, the key thing for everybody, right, is understand who's going to pay for this work. You know, if you work for, let's say you like doing splash art, you like doing like keyframe art, right? Look for the companies that hire for that, and then find out which one's like, oh, okay, I want to do stuff for that studio. You know, like Riot's a one that pops up a lot, right? And that's kind of where, just be aware of those things, because you don't want to be doing work for companies that won't hire you for it, just because it's not personal, it's just they don't, right? They just don't hire for that kind of stuff. And so you don't want to be wasting your time that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, it just comes down to like, what do you want to do? And just stick to it. Stay with it. Be good at it. Be really good at it. Because the people that are actually, the people that are good at what they do, they will, you know, they'll get the job of whatever it is that they're looking for. You know, it's just, you have to just stick to whatever it is that you want to actually do, because it's hard to get to that level of proficiency if you don't. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like I keep wiggling back and forth, and I'm not sure where to best put my time when I have it, and so it just makes me panic.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, I feel the same way, dude. Like I was doing like photo bashing yesterday, right? I did photo bash this morning, or I guess this afternoon, and like now I'm doing like, I guess, more stylized viz dev stuff, and I have trouble with that as well. And the lucky part is you don't have to stay doing what you want to do or what you're doing, right? It's not the last thing you'll ever do, but you just have to start somewhere, right? Just get in with one thing and then get better at the others. Like if you're already in, right, which I know you are, so keep doing what you're good at, but slowly start bringing in that other aspect, right? You don't have to be the best at it, but you're developing yourself and you're filling in gaps that you're trying to figure out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's tough, dude. I know. I've been bouncing around my entire career, and I don't recommend that for anybody. Like because the question you get is, oh, well, what do you do more of? And like, I'm like, dude, I do more of whatever I'm paid to do. You know what I mean? Like, if you put cash in front of me, I will do whatever it is you want me to do. I don't say it like that, but it's true. It's not. I mean, I don't care. I just want to paint. At the end of the day, I just like painting. I enjoy painting, and I enjoy the whole process. So that's all it is. But I think as a student, that's not really good advice, just because it's so hard to find a job. It is fucking difficult. For those of you that don't know, it is hard as shit, right? But you don't have to learn everything. You don't have to be good at every single aspect of the design world, right? You just have to be good at a couple different things. And if you get good at that, try to adapt, try to change a couple things here and there to kind of get you to where you need to go, like just adjust, just be like, oh, okay, cool. I'm a character designer, or I'm an environment designer. Sweet. I'm going to try to put some more characters in my environment. I'm going to try to put some more environments around my characters. And if you could do that, that's how you start progressing, right? Because those artists that are like good at everything, right? They've been working in the industry for like 20 years and they're like amazing at everything they touch. It's because they've been working for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, compare that, working, not even just being an art student, working for 20 years. And it really, because they get good at one thing and then they just figure out the rest, And it's not like they're gifted. I mean, they might be, who knows? But it's just they had the time that you don't, And as a student, just get in first. Get the bills paid for. Get off of the timeline that you're usually stuck on as a student of like, oh, I have to get a job by April or whatever, when I graduate, or whatever that means, right? Get off of that, because that's restricting as all hell. But, once you're off that, now it's like, cool, how do I stay employed? How do I get to a better position in my career,
Yeah.
Yo, this is looking slick. What's up, dude? Got like Lion King over here. This bird looks kind of tacky. I'll probably fix that a little bit later. I'll probably fix that off camera so you guys don't know the secrets. Can't give everything away, right? Nah, I'm just kidding. I'll show you. Let's see. Hold up. We're wrapping up soon, so if there's any last questions, hook it up. Let's we'll finish up strong. I'm wrapping up right now, so we'll get there in a second. But if there's any questions or anything at all, just holler it out. Ooh, what to do is this flat, darker color, boom. Dude, bro, what's up? Dope. All right. And then let's do one more thing. If you're not reflecting your water, like, what are you even doing, right? Like, come on, bro, too easy.
Easy points.
I know, man. They're like, dude, you painted all those reflections? And you're like, fuck yeah, man. That's what I do. Where's that water layer at? Right here.
You know that artist Astero? Any?
I'm not sure. I might know the art, but I'm not sure exactly who that is.
They've done a lot of legendary Pokemon paintings, and the scale is just immense. It's like it'll be just this enormous cloudscape with a Ho-Oh or a Rayquaza peeking out of them.
Yeah.
So it might be fun for you to look at after demo.
Oh yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah, send it over. I'll give it a look. See.
Okay.
Boom. Let's grab this blue brush, hard round. Sick. All right. Let's lighten that up, darken that down, lighten that up more. Let's go that way. Blue. Sick. Wait. Filter, blur, motion blur. Easy. Let's go, dude. And they're like, man, it looks so real. I'm just kidding. It's not that good. But I will do some quick atmosphere adjustments.
He works the same way as you do. Also, it actually helped clarify for me some things on the process, because it's like such a brute force approach to the silhouette fill with texture kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Nice. You'd be surprised how many artists actually work this way. It's not like, you know, I talk about it a lot, but I'm definitely not the only one. Like, I mean, I learned this from somebody else, so, you know, it definitely wasn't me, you know. So let's see, lighter color. Boom. The comments is Fosco says, the part I fear the most, that's the part I feel the most. It causes me some anxiety to think that I won't be able to get a job doing what I want. Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of that, right? There's a bit of like, you know, trying to, I guess, I don't know, trying to, like, you need to get that dream job, right? And I'll say this for everybody that is, you know, in the student process, trying to find work, you know, and trying to get to where you need to go, right? Try not to idolize a certain space too much, right? It's like there's this level of like, oh, I will only work at Disney, right? I don't want to work anywhere else. I cannot, right? Or whatever reason, right? And it's like just try not to do that, because just take whatever job comes at you, because there's a couple reasons for that. First reason is you don't know what opportunities might arise from you taking certain other positions, right? Like things that, you know, you might not, I guess, have known, right? Art directors or people that are there to guide you, right? Like you don't know who's at certain studios to kind of help you get to where you need to go, right? And just, you know, and at the end of the day, it's like, just get some food on the table. Just get your family taken care of. Do what you need to do, and then we can worry about trying to get you into that dream studio a little bit later. You know what I'm saying? Like develop as an artist first, and then get to that point. Right? It helps to, I guess, just understand that it's a journey. Right? You're gonna be doing this for decades. You have time. You know, you'll get to where you need to go, but first, you know, just try to learn as much as you can. And the dream studio that you want to go to, I do not recommend going there first, even if they give you a job there first. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, I don't say it like this, but, you know, it's like oftentimes you don't want to leave. You don't want to grow. You don't want to do these things. I'm not saying that everyone's like that, but there is a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, I'm happy at this one studio and it's great. It's cool. But if you want to progress in your career, if you want to get better, you usually find that from other opportunities. Not always, not every time, but oftentimes. You'll be surprised how much you'll learn from places that you didn't initially assume that you would learn something from, you know? So just, you know, me ranting, you know, me doing my thing. But at the end of the day, obviously you go about your career however you want. This is just things that I recommend because, you know, there's ideas and stuff that we, I guess we develop as students. We idolize certain things, or we create this, this need to be somewhere. But in reality, is like we're doing art. We're painting for a living at the end of the day, and it's like it's already pretty cool. You'll get to where you need to go. It's just just give it some time. And if you're not doing lens flares, freaking dude, what are you even doing, man? You know what I mean? So lens flares are, if you hate lens flares, we're not, you know what I mean? You're not going to enjoy this next 10 weeks. I don't say it like that, but I love lens flares. It just brings you into the space. It's like I can, cause I have it's funny. I'm learning this now. I have astigmatism. I've known I've had astigmatism, and I see lens flares because your eyes are shaped differently. So your eyes are a little more sensitive to light. I didn't know what that was, and this is just my vision. And so whenever I paint, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I see sometimes. And I didn't know people don't see that way. So, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. You actually see them more often.
Yeah, dude, especially at night, like tail lights. Like there's like big, they're more like anamorphic. If you guys know what anamorphic lens flares look like, here, I'll just show you real quick. Filter, render, lens flare. They're more like this, where they're like lines. They're sharper lines like that. This is actually what I see in traffic. It's like super long lines, and I didn't know. Like I was told that I had astigmatism, but I didn't know like what that meant really. You know what I mean? So, all right, guys. So. That in mind, this painting, right, it's about where I kind of want it to be. I'm going to probably take this a bit further. I'm going to kind of progress these two. So I have, what am I looking at here? All right, I have one foggy, nighttime, big centipede thing, and then one big bird, right? And so I'm going to make these two cool. I'm going to make these, I'm going to take these a little bit further, not much from here, because I do want to do it for the live stream next week. Like you'll see the steps of me actually painting and stuff. But this is kind of where we're going, right? We had some other paintings here. Where are they at now? Let's see. Let's grab them real quick. Boom. We had other paintings, right? We have other things that we're enjoying. We talked about why we're doing certain things, which is dope, right? Now we combine them to create the kind of image that we want, right? You can kind of see how all three came together. And this is why I was so focused on the crits, or even last week, of bring a couple. You never know what you're going to gravitate towards. I had no idea I was going to be doing this painting when I first started today. But here we are now, right? And I can make this better. It's going to look cooler, this and that, whatever. But it only happened because I had the other three thumbnails that I did, or four, including that dragon that I didn't even use. And so whatever you're doing ideation, right? Try to push them as far as you can, and try to do as many as you can, because all you want is 10% of an idea. Every painting that you do, just look for just a little bit, right? Just a little part of something that's going to give you the keys to the next painting, right? We're developing ideas. We're not going to hit it in the first go. So whenever you're designing, right, try and do that. So for everyone that's participating, right, what I recommend doing is taking your thumbnails and pushing them further. If you only did one, do 2 or 3 more and then push it further. If you have a couple, right, try to combine them and see what happens. Try to make something unique. Talk to other people and ask what they see, right? Because I wouldn't have gotten this if people didn't recommend it. And, we're at a better painting because of it, right? So hopefully you can see this process working pretty well. I am glad that we kind of did this together, and you can see how quickly it comes together. Because I already have paintings, I already have these 3 paintings. I had things to kind of bounce off of already, right? I took the mood and tone on the top side here. I took the location here, and I kind of added the assets from there, and it came together relatively quickly. It's not 100% there yet, but we're not supposed to be, right? We still have 8 more weeks. So, but cool. Let me check out that syllabus again really quickly. Let's bring that over here. Boom. So next week, right, we're going to be picking directions. We're going to be kind of establishing the exact thing that we want to do right now, right? It's just animal silhouettes. I don't really have much, I guess, in terms of design set yet. I'm going to be figuring that out further. I'm going to be kind of diving in and making this look a little more interesting than it is. Right now, it's just like a nature landscape. So it's like cool, but you know, we need more, right? It's the base coat for what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to, when you squint down, it's supposed to kind of feel like this, but when you actually look at it, it's not supposed to look this way. We're going to be pushing this further. For the homework, right? Take previous week's assets and combine for more interesting, complex ideas. If you want feedback, right? If you want someone to look at the work and kind of help you out, please join my Discord. If you go to my my Instagram, you'll see my link tree. Just click on the Digital Vegetables Discord, and that'll kind of bring you into there. And yeah, just you know, I welcome anybody that wants to be a part of it. You know, I try to be as active as I can in there. I am going to be more active now, now more than I've been lately. And then yeah, so hopefully we can get some cool projects out of this. So it's coming along. You know, I think these images are getting pretty fun. So with that in mind, guys, you know, thanks for watching. You know, I really appreciate you know, giving your time. It's been 3 hours of me just bitching and complaining. So, you know, definitely, I really appreciate, you know, anybody that subscribes, anybody that follows and shares and things like that. So definitely, you know, just keep doing what you're doing, and I'll see you guys next week. So cool. Peace.